our ship is well, that only Jolly Roger has been through hell. Yo ho, on an adventure we go. In the heated digital high seas, we travel with ease until we reach the outer edge and freeze. The Arctic chill like a very speed mill through the darkness led by our will. Yo ho, on an adventure we go to beyond the outer limits of society, broadcasting the reality. The pirates will always steal the show. From WPRPN, you know. Yo ho, on an adventure we go. Down our vessels in the Skullboard Harbor. No landlubbers will fight for you harder. Your old first mate went AWOL after a drinking field haul. The legacy of pirate radio is strong. I hope our mates will come along. The changes we seek may not be long. That is why I wrote this song. And we go ho ho, on adventure we go. Welcome everybody, friends, folks, foes, and fellow pirate mateys, to our latest weekly edition of World Pirate Radio News. It's show segment number 311. I'm your host, as always, the Robin Hood's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. WPRPN, we will remind you, is the website. You'll want to drop by. If only because, well, we've got finally our January calendar and archive end of the operation is up in place, so that's good. We're finally managing to catch a little more up to speed as far as what we've basically, left for the public to peruse and have their way with. So we've, keep in mind, actually sign up is free. Let's remind people of that. That sign up is free to the website, WPRPN.com. All you simply need is a username, password, and email. If you do happen to run into any problems along the way, do not hesitate in getting back to us via our main email address, pirate1radio@protonmail.com. That's pirate, the numeral 1. Radio@protonmail.com will help to smooth things over, get you sailing off in just the sort of direction you hope to be. We've got a Patreon presence, a couple of online merchandising outlets, not least of which, of course, is via Galactic Fire. So check that link out via the show description end of things. The aforementioned email address, pirate1radio@protonmail.com, is what we have running in conjunction with our PayPal. If it's within your means, you find what we have to offer to be of any value to you, whether educational, informational, entertainment-wise, or what have you. So also, if you have any show suggestions or guest ideas, that's the way to hit us up. Reach out to us through that main email address. We'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you failed to hear back from us, and you've tried to reach out on at least one occasion, that doesn't necessarily mean we're ignoring you. It just typically means that we haven't got your message, that it's been lost in the shuffle, as it were. So, try not to, don't think otherwise or falsely assume that we're just trying to ignore you. So, there's some of the latest swag that we've launched via galacticfire.com as well. The merchandising director, Sonia Galactic, helping to hold down that end of the operation. Much appreciated, Sonia. Liking, commenting, sharing, remembering to hit subscription, notification buttons, passing word along to friends, family, co-workers. It all does a lot of real good things, folks. Although, the pirate doubloons are always very much appreciated, and it's in fact really what helps to keep the wind in our sails here, without which, well, it'd be a real shame to see the show go by the wayside, the flagship end of things here, and just the wider network operation. But that's where we could be headed if things don't pick up a little more on that front, unfortunately. It's also interesting to note that half of everything we do manage to generate goes directly back to charity. Why more social media, live streaming personalities and the like don't embrace this concept, I have no idea, but we do. Very much, of course, in conjunction with the whole WWRHD, what would Robin Hood do, ethos and philosophy. So, all right, it's the Pyramid Power special. That's what we're focusing on mostly this week, along with a mix of other items, and we will get around to sharing via Skype here, and the group of fellow pirate mateys that are waiting here patiently in the wings to see what we've put together this week as far as potential talking points are concerned, outside of simply the pyramid power focus and end of things. But yeah, big news for sure, most definitely. So, and this week we've got the likes of Angel Espino, Johnny Webb, actually out of the UK, Angel Espino via Florida, USA, Vinny from Brooklyn, having just dropped in to the conversation here. Good to see him. It's been a while, Vinny.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. All things considered, obviously. So, who else? We got Alan out of Fort Collins, Colorado. HomeNetwork.tv is his operation, and having recently just having had to endure a fire. Let's hear a little bit more about this fire business, because we were really worried when we heard this. Are all your pets safe?
Yes, they are. I was very fortunate, and so were they. The fire happened beside the bed in a 32-foot bus. It's a custom bus that has bedroom, bathroom, et cetera, so forth. And right behind the nightstand, there was an electrical problem, and it set fire to a bunch of stuff, which led to a bunch of blankets, and I had to reach my hand into it in order to try to smother it, in order to have time, in order to get to the fire extinguisher, which is only 8 feet away. And it was almost like I didn't even have time then after I smothered it. So, but we got 4 of the cats out, both the dogs immediately out. One cat we couldn't find right away, but now if anything happens again, I know where to find that cat. He was underneath the passenger seats, hiding in the flap.
Oh boy. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this? Not mentioning the fact, of course, that it did have uh, a significant impact on your ability to live stream. Some electronics, I guess, got burnt up in the course of things.
What happened was the fire was in the electric, so it shut down all the electric
Right.
completely in the bus. Now, since then, I've actually went in and jumpered it. I had to make a bunch of 1-foot jumpers in order to go from clean to clean. And I put the jumpers in, and I didn't have power. And it's like, oh no. So I don't know where the electric stands. It could be as bad as a 10 for the electric. I don't know if it fried or not. But what I had to do is I had to run 4 or 5 extension cords from the barn, okay, with about a total of 25 amps is all I have in order to draw right now.
All right.
So, uh, so that's what I'm broadcasting on. I
All
don't
right.
have lights. I don't have anything. I do have the glow of the screen for me.
Well, it's great to see that you're at least able to connect with the wider world through one means or or the next. We ourselves here a little hamstrung, kind of throwing our hands up in frustration with uh, the fact that our Linux machine is down again. So maybe we haven't drawn this to Mark's attention, but maybe at some point here we can get get that end of the operation back on track. The Linux monitor, the TV screen that we work with here. So, but yeah, that pales in comparison clearly to what you've had to recently endure. Is that Angel's girlfriend? Who are we looking at there? I couldn't quite tell, but I have to put my glasses on.
Maybe. Don't be jealous.
What a bitch.
That's what I like in my private time.
Yeah. So, okay. Now, so Pyramid Power Special, folks. Has everyone heard about this? Everyone up to speed, or at least to some degree, as far as what's been breaking over the last couple of days? I'd like to, and by the way, I'm expecting to hear from Robert Morningstar. There's a good chance that
he'll have a good take on that.
Yeah. So we yeah.
No, some of us don't. You'll have to fill us in.
Oh, well, hang on. So, let's see. Johnny, I'm sure Johnny Webb out of the UK will have a thing or two to offer. But in the meantime, Angel, you were you had mentioned, without revealing this amazingly popular and so mega huge live streaming show that where they feature some of your comments, I guess, are being made in the side chat, that they were addressing the pyramid revelation business, what's occurred as it relates. Supposedly, there's some that are calling it totally fake. Saying, this is nonsense. It's a false reading. That sort of deal.
Well, actually, I have data on that, and I can confirm that the reading that is publicly out now, that is, everybody is going Google Gaga over, is misinformation. And the show that you're in questioning, talking about on YouTube is called The Sneezing Monkey. Now, I know it sounds funny, but he has 42.2 thousand subscribers.
Yeah.
The episode that he was quoting what I was saying in the chat room was viewed at the moment by 19,000 people live.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not a small time potato, even though it has a funny name.
But did he do the science as well?
He was talking about the initial reports that came out. Going over the Joe Rogan stuff, talking about the pyramids and, how the information is spreading. And then I came into it and I talked about some of the science and the research I've done over the last 20 years, people I've talked to, and how there's going to probably be more information coming out that debunks a lot of the the stuff that is being publicly addressed now is the golden grail of what's under there. It's actually mostly all natural caves and stuff that were there for centuries and centuries and centuries. Remember, the planet's billions of years old, right? And underneath Egypt and all over Egypt, we know thousands of years ago there was running water, right? There was vegetation, all kinds of things. The pyramids were built to not only give water in water systems to the Egyptians or the people of that time. This is pre-modern Egypt of the last 5,000 years. This goes back maybe 35,000 years, and they had both electricity and water systems that ran because of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and the other pyramids surrounding it were also part of this equation, and they were built in a certain billions of location, right? For and particular reason. Yeah. Oh, there I heard myself. That's always a golden thing.
Right. Yeah. Just a bit of an echo feedback.
Yeah.
Continue.
But
hang on before you do continue. So what you're saying then? There's something there, but it's not what people are right. Hypothesizing or theorizing. So of course, but in order to prove this, that further investigation will be freely allowed, so that confirmation can. And Zahi Hawass will be happy to just let the qualified scientists proceed with investigating them.
Right now, the
I don't think so.
The thing they picked up, the thing they picked up was like these huge pillars that go like for miles underneath the pyramids, right? This is not unnatural. In fact, when you look at the actual science that's been around for a few years, there's nothing new. They kind of describe what's under there, and this is sulfuric acid and a bunch of other things that naturally form under the ocean, underground. And this is just tunneling that is under there, and there are caves and all kinds of things that we are finding under the oceans. So there's a very good chance that we're going to find caves and all kinds of things.
So the pyramids were all built directly on top of these giant caves filled with water, is what you're trying to argue.
Right. And the reason for that is, again, to give the civilization of that time running water, electricity. There are multi-purposes to why this.
Oh, so there was electricity.
Yes, thousands of years ago they had electrical currents. Remember, again, I'm talking about thousands of years pre-modern Egyptian. Okay, the Sphinx is 35,000 years old. As water erosion around it has told us is at least 35,000, maybe more. So we're talking about, forget the last 2,000 plus years of Jesus, forget the Egyptians, the Sumerians, or 5,000 years ago. We're talking about 35,000 years ago. If the pyramids are older than that, we're talking about civilizations that's been lost for thousands and thousands of years with technology that today to us look alien. And when you're looking under this entire plateau, you're looking at structures that are left there because all the water was initially sucked out of there, passed around, and now because of the structures and the way it was done thousands of years ago, we have deserts out there.
Right. How soon do you think until we were able to either prove or kind of shoot down this theory then, and kind of establish that it's something more than what you're claiming? How soon? Within the next couple of weeks, months, years? How long is it going to take?
I would say with the proper science, you're looking at about maybe 5 months before we could honestly say that it's natural formation, because the data goes back to a couple of years, and now we're just looking at another person who did their own scan, and the whole internet is blowing up off of their theory of what's under there, and it's taking a life on its own. Oh, now it's coils and it's tunnels, and it went from one thing on one show that somebody speculated on based on what they did, and then it blew up and Joe Rogan talked about it. And now the whole internet, because it's Joe Rogan, everybody believes this is actually what's going on. But follow the data. Go back to people who've actually been to the pyramids, who've done the research, has been inside the pyramids, and actually, know what they're talking about. Joe Rogan's a podcaster. He's,
Like people
talks
like
about
Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson, or
right, Steve Myers. I mean, there's a lot of people that I can
okay.
point you
Well,
to.
what have they been saying? We tagged them actually in one of the posts that we published on Facebook just the other day, hoping that they might find it to be of some use or interest. But okay, well, this one last disclosing, just way of, if you'll excuse the pun, capping things off with what you've got to offer here, Angel. And let's hand it over to Johnny Webb, because he's never short.
One
This
more
is
thing,
this is his wheelhouse. I'm almost.
one more thing before
Yeah.
I let go on
Mhm.
this, and it'll be really brief.
Sure.
The pyramids also, just so you know, they've been looted over thousands of years, and a lot of the goods are gone
Right.
because
Well, and they
that's
never were tombs either. Apparently, that's how the story goes.
no. That's a whole nother lie that
Right.
was
Right.
told to cover up the initial use because they had no understanding of what was there.
Saying this, so
But
that, well, yeah, was it a lie, or just the people were they were mistaken in thinking they were tombs? I don't understand how can you say they weren't
it was
tombs.
a mixture of both. In fact, when you look
Yeah.
at some of the hieroglyphics inside the
Right.
pyramids,
Right.
you could tell that they were kind of like fibbing because they didn't really know what was going on under the pyramids. So they were kind of giving an interpretation, even how they were built, which doesn't, hold water now. I always stood by that they were built pre-modern man by previous civilizations that were on Earth. They got wiped out for whatever
Yeah.
reason. Now, what I was going with, which I was going to be brief on, was the actual pyramid was coated before with a certain element which helped it with the electrical current, including a golden top. All this is rooted. If you actually go to the Great Pyramids of Giza, you'll notice the top has part of it missing with wires sticking out, right? Because it's been looted of its actual valuable essence, which was actually the coating around it, including the top, which was the electric current. Now, what do we use gold for? And a lot of, besides, fancy jewelry, for copper wiring, for
Mm-hmm.
wiring, electrical outlets and things like that. We have the whole Anunnaki wanting gold. Gold has always been an important part of our history, right? This is one of the reasons, because literally it's a great conductor of electricity, and even Tesla knew this.
Oh, well, I mean, that's one of the yeah. You bet he did, and both he and Edgar Casey were a couple of people I was wanting to bring up into the today's conversation. So we'll let people like Johnny and others address this matter, and if they've got nothing more to offer regarding this whole business, then back to you, of course, or anyone else out there, via the peanut gallery. So, Johnny Webb
so
via
Jeffy,
the or Vinny from Brooklyn. Let's not forget Vinny. Go ahead, Vinny.
Yes.
Hey Jeffy, so a lot of people keep forgetting what happened last year. Remember, we uncovered the underground tunnels under the synagogue in Brooklyn, and then from there you need to understand that there are tunnels under every synagogue. Okay?
Everywhere. Yep.
All right, so guys, we have missed a parallel underground civilization living at the same time as us.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, absolutely. We have big time. That's what does the word occulted mean?
Right.
That's part of the Vinny's 100%
hidden or unseen. And even, for example, they talk about how the moon is more better traversed and has been understood by science, as it were, than the oceans that we have on our own planet. So look at Antarctica, the sub-oceanic cave structures, and oh my God!
Well, it should be the obvious clue that we've been distracted to look up instead of looking down.
Sure,
if we
of
look
course.
right under our feet, we're going to find the answers to tons of things.
Right.
Hey, Elon, if you really want to go to Mars, find the portal that takes you there. You're not going to get there by a rocket.
Right. Right. So,
and here's the biggest thing I want to say. Everyone forgot about this movie, Chud, Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers.
Oh.
Okay. That was one of the clues that woke me up to what was going on.
I'm so we're in that underground. What are the first two? The something.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground
Ooh, that's
dwellers.
pretty nasty.
There was an old '80s movie called Chud.
No kidding.
And yeah, and then
I remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that. A couple of things I'd like to add to what was being spoken earlier. First of all, there was a person that, well, basically practices out-of-body travel. And I hadn't put too much credibility into that force or that ability until a little bit later when I discovered that independently, okay, where he would not have known it because it was found later. I'm sorry, I've got a weird thing going on with my mic there.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Well, give it a shot.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
Well, here's the thing. How the description came out is that the pyramid itself was a hydrogen pulse generator, meaning that it would move a wave of plasma from the king's chamber to the queen's chamber. The queen's chamber was filled with water. The electrodes that we found in those tunnels, okay, those smaller tunnels that happen to be tuned to the microwave frequency and occasionally aligned with a star somewhere, actually was the spark plug for the whole thing. Now, how this thing would work is that the lattice in the Great Hall, because it had the resonance in there, and there's been musicians, including, I think, Michael Jackson, that's actually gone in there and done the acoustics, and so is Prince. That was memorable when Prince went there.
Crowley,
he was
Bell.
amazed by. Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing. Here's what's missing. There used to be bells all the way down the Great Hall.
Really?
And these
according to who?
This is this is putting things together. Okay, so this is also the reason why the bell is so worshipped within the Masonic Lodge as well.
You mean Bell, okay, or Bell or Baal?
B-E-L-L.
Nothing to do with Baal.
No. Bell. What they had is bells in there. They would ring them in order to get this thing started. The ringing would start the king's chamber, above the king's chamber, to create piezoelectric. Whoops. I have been having trouble with that. There we go. It would start ringing in the king's chamber, would cause a piezoelectric, and that would build into hydrogen oxygen because of electrolysis. All right, that whole hydrogen oxygen mix would then be sparked, and the flame would come flying out and go either into the queen's chamber or the king's chamber. It wouldn't matter because the wave is what's important. By the time the wave went to the king's chamber and come back, it was already generating what? All these bricks came up and landed, causing all of the carbon scoring above the king's chamber. Okay, it also created the electricity that traveled down the Great Hall, and there is areas in the Great Hall that are very jagged, which would have produced electricity and sparks in the Great Hall where there was flowing water.
Yeah, has the carbon scoring? Does the carbon scoring still remain to this day?
Preach.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is
Absolutely.
Look. We need some. This is fascinating conversation material, but I you know, people, dummies like me, I need URLs, links, things like that. And
question, okay.
So share the links.
I can probably look that up, but I mean, we're talking about 20 years of research.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, 15 links just to start.
Mark Edward has his hand raised. Before we get to Mark, though, with a quick comment or what have you, let me ask you, Alan, do you know anything about the giant red granite, which apparently is found nowhere anywhere close to the Giza Plateau, and in fact, the closest location is like hundreds of miles away, and these are one piece, like the weight of these stones is just off the charts, many tons, which you can't even fit a bill between where the seam exists.
I can't tell you exactly where that may have came from, but I can tell you two ways that they moved them. First of all, there's plenty of roads to nowhere leading to Giza. It's not leading to Giza. It's going to the actual quarry. It's pointed straight toward the quarry. It just stops in mid-flight. Why? Because what they did is they quarried the rock and they laid a road all the way to where they were building. And then when they quarried enough and they counted the stones, guess what? We can just pick up the stones at the end of the road and bring those in, and we're done.
It was all
They didn't
human. This
bother.
is all human
No,
ingenuity and expertise.
there's a mix. You can find that. You can find that in other writings.
So you
Okay, there is.
you suspect that there was some off-planet
I don't think they're off.
cooperation,
I think they're on planet. I think they were a previous
subterranean.
generation of growth. Okay. There was an ice age that wiped out a lot of things. There was a asteroid that wiped out a lot more in the wrong time of the year. So we have two catastrophes that are pretty dang close together. And a lot of people don't realize the Gulf of Mexico is nothing more than an asteroid strike. That's the asteroid strike we've been looking for.
Really?
Okay. So when we start looking at these things realistically, there's only one conclusion. It's amazing example in the Bible, and I'm not trying to spread any hate or discontent or anything like that, but in the Bible it says the children of Cain would be isolated from the rest of the world and have their own kingdom. And look, you just go on about yourself, just we don't want to be bothered with you. Who in political reality is that today? China. And nobody sits there and credits China for being the son of Cain. But nonetheless, the prophecy is fulfilled only by one country in the entire world, and that's China, building the Great Wall, etc. They have been isolated, and their culture has been preserved since before Christ. Their culture is the same culture.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there was any culture that is going to introduce gunpowder, if there's going to be any culture to introduce other things, okay, it's going to be that culture that comes up with it. Why? Because they have access to the oldest teachings on the planet. Now, these teachings on the planet, they have been literally in the time of Einstein and the time of all of these geniuses in science. They have been functioning with a broken knee all this time. And the reason being is because the foundation of science is brute force, not natural. You take a look at the transition between a cathode ray tube and an LED tube or a TV today. The power consumption, etc. Our foundations have been off this far. So we're not using things like cymatics that moves your cell phone across the bar because you set it on vibrate. It's as simple as that.
What do you mean? What do you mean the foundation of science has been brute force? It's what that makes me think of is how the whole scamdemic played out, and that greed ruled the day essentially, and trust the science was more like trust the politicized science. How it was all, it was all just a fraud. Really, it was rigged from the get-go.
Ohm's law happens to work in hydraulics, but not in electronics. Ohm's law actually works in something they call plasma science. It doesn't work in science. Okay, so when we sit there and we actually apply it to plasma, it works. We apply it to water, it works. But electricity itself, it doesn't. It's not there. It's a brute force application when we're measuring it that way. We have been deceived for so long. Okay. Example: most generators, okay, will start getting hot when you put a load on them. However, the Searle converter, which is a free energy device that is basically rotating magnets, they can never balance. That's all. They never can find a neutral balance. As soon as they're in motion, they will continue to be in motion. And the only thing you got to do is put a coil by one of those passing magnets that's spinning, and you have electricity. It's just that fast, that easy.
Can you produce, said apparatus?
Actually, I can produce a gentleman that was an apprentice of Dr. Searle, which was the inventor of it. And
but okay, Dr. Searle, exactly. But can anyone? Is this something that can be that any Joe Sixpack can easily produce at home?
with one except, well, when you say produce at home, the answer remains yes. If you want to say that you can produce it and sell it, no. Reason being is because this patent is held by Spintronics out of California. And I actually have a non-disclosure with them because I've worked with them on the design of an ion propulsion device for the airframe and control panels.
Are there any examples of this on YouTube?
Absolutely. You can find the Cyril device all over the
So
place.
that's what we're talking about, the Cyril device.
Yes, exactly. And if you remember, the early construction of it was quite extensive. They had to take ceramics and use a very special machine to embed a digital code into one of the rollers. Now, this digital code is nothing more than an AC wave. Now,
Okay.
it's a complex AC wave because there's more than one AC wave that's imprinted on that, but that same AC wave slightly off, so it never can stop. As soon as it starts in motion, it can't stop. It can't find balance.
It's like a perpetual motion machine, basically.
Yeah, well, except that it's not perpetual. It operates on repel force. Ultimately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a natural repel force.
Right.
It's just that if you make it into a circle, then it's a circular repel force, meaning that now you have perpetual motion. It's one of the few things that's been able to get a patent.
Fascinating. Yeah, very most fascinating. Let's hear from Mark. We haven't. Let's let Mark and then maybe Johnny Webb. Mark, you've had your hand up for a while there. Hang on, Alan.
Put a load on the Cyril device. It actually goes super cool.
Oh,
it doesn't get hot.
Okay.
It goes the other way.
Oh, excellent.
Meaning that, all this time we've been fighting, nature. But go ahead. I yield.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Mark and then Johnny, if he's up for it.
2 points. I was just looking at the UK Telegraph and Sun, Daily Sun, or the Sun newspapers websites in relation to this, because I wasn't aware of this before.
Is that today's Telegram and Sun?
2 days ago.
Okay.
2 days ago, or a day ago, as far as you're concerned. Well, as far as the Americans are concerned. 2 points. I was reminded by the Baghdad batteries, which are small vessels that are capable, or were meant to be capable of producing some electricity. I'm just thinking that there is no concrete evidence of this of electricity produced by these underground caves at the moment. So it's still technically speculation of electricity. Yeah, it's still speculation. Second point I'm thinking is in relation to the political situation. For a long time, or within the last 10 years at least, there's been arguments between Egypt and Great Britain about museum pieces.
I'm sorry, in relation to the collateral situation, is this, why are you bringing your girlfriend suddenly into the conversation?
Museum pieces.
One more time? I thought you said, it sounded like, did anyone else hear clitoral situation? I was wondering, maybe like a sex therapist or something like that was.
No, museum. I say those big buildings that you go in and look at exhibitions.
Oh, like museums? Oh, museums.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
Yeah, continue.
I went to rewind the show real quick, Jackie, and I can confirm there was a mention of the clitoris.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Moving along. Mark, you have a point to finish? And keep it.
My point is that how much of this information is the Egyptian government willing to allow to come out? Because again, there has been a lot of arguments in relation to, especially between Egypt and Britain in relation to specific finds over the last 10, maybe 15 years now. So
more than that, Zahi Hawass at the helm, like he's been playing the role of gatekeeper on so many fronts for quite some time, unfortunately. But that's the way that this works. Look at the realm of conspiracy and science. But people, people say they stand by their, stand by their position, stick by their guns, and over time, lo and behold, more often than not, the truth. There's only three things that, according to the Buddha, it's pretty straightforward, simple logic if you think about it. Though that only three things that cannot forever be hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. And so, as the late great Jim Marrs, I think one of his last books that he produced, our occulted history. Like Alan was alluding to, that we've been hoodwinked essentially, clear across the board. It's not just this business in Egypt; it's on so many fronts, so many avenues, right down to the last little nanoparticulate. Frankly, and it's as it's what many of us are left to face and contend with, as humans in this realm of, as we go about living our lives, passing through this world as humans. And some of us work and ultimately fight to know the truth, demand that the truth be told, and others would rather that it be covered up. And misdirection, disinformation, and things of that sort continue to rule the day.
You want to know about energy off the pyramid, check the chat.
Okay, we'll do. But first, before we do that, I see. Oh, Johnny dropped out. Roger Hansen here via West Frankfort, Illinois. Roger, have you been following? I'm not sure either our conversation here or just more generally the alleged these claims, alleged subterranean mysteries that Edgar Cayce, let's not forget, did predict that around this time there would be certain things coming to light as far as what was hidden under the Sphinx. The Sphinx's anterior frontal region, the paws basically, and to have to do with Atlantis, I believe, in the Hall of Records, something that may resonate with a few of you. But what are your thoughts, Roger? What's your take on this whole business?
Well, what's his name? The Egyptian curator.
Zahi Hawass. He's the head of antiquities. The Egyptian antiquities. Did you see Mr. Beast? Did he troll him the other day? Oh, he's like, he kept to bring aliens. He did it like multiple times. I saw this one clip. It was like, oh man, he was totally getting trolled hard.
There was a guy who did excavations on mummified animals that were buried as sacrificial pets. And he uncovered a cave system that was down underneath the Gaza plateau. And he went to tell him, and he refused to go out there. And finally, when he did go out there, he found out that there is an underground cave system running through there, and took all the credit for it. And that was found out, I'd say, about 3 or 4 years ago.
Was this a Westerner or an Egyptian?
It was Wahazi or whatever.
No. Zahi Hawass. Was it a Westerner?
Yeah, it was a Westerner
archaeologist. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And when it comes to the underground, they've been talking about cave systems underneath Gaza for a long time. It's not just people who believe in UFOs
Well,
or ancient
right, yeah, but
history.
but now, but see, here's my thing: is why had this not come to light earlier with ground penetrating radar technology? I don't get it. There's this one documentary series called "What on Earth." People can look it up if they're so inclined. Check it. It's a cool documentary series for those of you out there. This is value added content, by the way. It's why people help us out on PayPal and in other areas as far as the merchandising end of things. But yeah, what on earth? And easily accessible, and you can download or just watch it your leisure. But they use satellite observations, and along with the ground penetrating radar, where they find these anomalies that just they stand out, and in a big way. It's like, what is going on here, as seen from space, essentially. And they take it from there as far as launching investigation. I'm not familiar with too many instances to this point where they've been cock blocked, but go ahead, Mark.
Definitely. Sorry, I can answer your questions in a couple of simple words: politics and national airspace.
What do you mean exactly?
You were talking about radar. Why hasn't there been any sort of
with Egypt? With Egypt,
yeah.
Wait a minute, but hang on, satellites. But this is like with the satellite ground penetrating radar. Is it done through satellites, or in what capacity? What context does it occur?
Planes. I think it's done through planes.
Oh, you know what? I've seen, at the time.
Helicopters have to be not straight.
Yeah, well,
helicopters.
Okay, there could be that way of the approach, but also Time Team, which you have actually. I like just to our wider listening audience probably is not aware of this, but Mark, I think, was it one of your dad's friends works for Time Team?
One of my dad's friends is. I don't know if he still is. Probably retired now, but used to be a British archaeologist, and yeah, he's appeared on a few of those Tony Robinson Time Team episodes.
That show sucked anyhow.
That's fine.
That show sucked anyhow.
Sorry, I had to deal with the cat.
Some of it was fun. Some of it was fun.
I'm freaking out, guys. What's going on?
Jeffy went.
I had to
blank
deal
for a second,
with it.
So he could be having
shooting blanks. You said that's not good.
Cat. I had to deal with the cat, and the mic muting feature is jumping all over.
We thought the Koreans got you. Putting you back to
the Koreans wouldn't get me. They'd be going for the cats first and foremost.
That's the fear of mine. Yes,
that was actually a good show.
So
I was joking, Mark.
You go get.
I like that show. I was joking. But
Time Team. So, but here's the thing. So, okay, aerial from an satellite, airplanes, also just on the ground. They have these machines kind of that they handheld. They roll, and they basically traverse the area and map it all out. It's somewhat time consuming. It's like taking a large lawnmower and just covering the ground basically with it is what I've seen. With where they've used this technique and
that's
technology.
A conspiracy for me on its own. Because if you remember, have you ever heard of the reptoids under Los Angeles?
No, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's some. Well, there's a lot in LA, like the what is it? The lookout. Oh God, I have to look that up.
Lookout Mountain.
Is it Lookout Mountain? Is that what it's called? Where they did all those the propaganda films during World War II and continue right through up until it's the Getty family they've invested in that, and they've been implicated in human smuggling, notably of the underage sort, as we've seen with Epstein, and people like Lex Wexner being drawn into the whole the whole messy, business, but just revelations
Well,
once again.
drawn in,
Keep it.
drawn in. You mean kind of worm their way in, wouldn't you say?
Well, it was come to light. They thought that they could just get away with murder essentially, and they probably did for quite some time. But then finally, it just because of, I would argue, the work that the likes of ourselves and many others throughout the Fifth Estate Underground, we have that's part of our job, and how
everything hidden will come to light.
That's right. Even though we the ripples that we produce here are of a largely very modest and minor
well, that's
character.
the beauty of the ripple effect, Jeffrey. Right. The ripple effect. The ripples don't need to be huge.
The Beijing butterfly. It's the Korean kangaroo or something. I don't know. Go.
Can I add something real quick, Jackie?
Raise your hand, Angel. Raise your. Didn't your mother ever teach you to? Yeah, I'm pulling your wooden leg.
Well, anyway, that's not how radio works.
Not the middle one. Not the middle one.
That's not how the force works. Okay, but this is something that's right off the presses. This is right on the news as of today. As you know, Doge has been investigating where our money has been laundered.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
Now they have now, as per our President Trump, are going to investigate the Pentagon for trillions of dollars.
Yeah, well,
they're going to investigate audit, whatever. They're investigating the Pentagon because from 2001 to now, there's about $35 trillion missing.
Well, that's it.
And what did they know of?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if we can find even like a half of that, it pays our debt, right? So, where I'm going at
black budget.
Is a lot of this money. In fact, I would say 90% of that missing money went directly to Lockheed Martin and Skunk Work and a lot of these places for black budget projects. And it's just like Elon Musk to be the one tasked to find this out, where he of SpaceX, right, is the one that's going to find out that a lot of this money went for aerial crafts that look like alien ships, which were based on back engineered aircraft.
Right, reverse engineering what's already crashed.
Right. Elon Musk, Donald Trump are pretty much, I think at this point, it's pretty clear they're going to be the disclosure duo. And we're already seeing where the MLK files, the JFK files, RFK files, they butchered a little bit of the Epstein files, but I know why that happened, and that's all.
That is all a limited hangout, is what my take on things to this point. It's a total. But they've tried to shake the tree in a way, big time to shake and see what is able to fall out. But the powers that be are still they're still suppressing and keeping hidden thousands of files.
That, Jeffy, not only that, you got to understand a lot of things that are done in the dark are covered before this regime got here. We have 4 years of Biden. Do you really think that all files are still there? They've been destroyed, most of that. What we're going to get is the leftover that had not destroyed yet.
And that is a crime as well too. Is what is the sentence for destruction of government documents, the willful destruction of government documents?
Depending on the amount of charges, it could be life in prison, it could be death row, it could be 20 years. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the crime. Like Hillary Clinton should have been 25 years in prison for what she's done. Of course, the left covered for her.
Well, but the thing is, and that's a question of like finding, like holding them, not like proving that they were the guilty parties, obviously.
Trump was also looking into Crossfire Hurricane, which is connected and Hillary Clinton. This is all just on the news today and yesterday. So they're going to investigate even that, which implicates the last 30 years from Clinton, Obama, Clinton, Bush,
and going after, and in conjunction with what you're talking about, Crossfire Hurricane, going after the cartels.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think, as far as that whole business is concerned, we could definitely stand to use a little help on, north of the border. There's a recent. It just broke my heart to see a recent video clip. There's a story, news coverage of what's happened to the downtown part of Vancouver that formerly had a pretty decent, lively, upbeat nightlife. Now, because what they've done, the powers that be, the government, bureaucrats, decision makers have put policies in place that have brought homeless, drug addicted people into to occupy I think multiple apartment housing venues or locations, and it's just it's spilt out over into the streets in a way which had up until just recently been contained elsewhere, largely the downtown east side of the city. As is typically the case, you find that the east side. And do you know why that is? That generally the east side is more run down and degraded. Any city that we hear about? Anyone know why that is?
That's a good question, but even in Florida, you have that.
Well,
down here.
I'll tell you now maybe somebody has some better insight or ideas, but it's quite simply put, it's the way the wind blows, and because of the industrialization, the history of North America's industrialization, and the building of factories. You have like rendering plants and all sorts of just places that with what they emit as far as toxins into the air, real genuine pollution, none of this phony baloney. Oh my God, carbon is killing us. Give me a break. It's like
the cow farts, Jeffy.
Yeah,
the cow.
Yeah, no, but we're talking like real, genuine, toxic emissions, and you usually, as someone of more disposable means, you want to be west of that, all that crap, obviously. So, okay, what else are we looking at here? I'm kind of not able, don't have things up on screen at the moment. Anyone's hand raised? Yeah, Alan. Have we pretty much gone round the horn back to Alan? Let's check out the peanut gallery. See if I'm kind of. Oh, here we go. Sometimes the comment end of things is a little slow, and we got Zane Ivy. He was dropped in along with Vinny there over on D Live. Zane, courtesy of Facebook. Chris Laterreux, great to see you, Chris. So let's give him a shout out, because he's someone who recently it was this. Hang on a second. With respect, Chris Laterreux, we helped him out on the donation support end of things, and following up, we were thinking about it to begin with, but following up on Robert Morningstar's lead, it was a $50 challenge essentially, and so we met that amount, and we in turn just challenge anyone else out there to take a look at Chris's story. He now lives in Alberta. He's a former he's a product essentially of Montauk's Camp Hero program, someone who's quite lucky to be alive, amazingly, all things considered, super soldier type character of sorts. And he really there's something funny going on as far as what they shot him up with. Maybe, Chris, you can remind us that he was in the hospital, and it was something to do with, he was under the impression that he was being injected with another substance entirely that would not stand to have such a negative impact, but he unbeknownst to him, had a doctor, very nefarious, of course, just a diabolical individual, clearly, who shot him up with one of the experimental kill shots, and because of that, I guess he's been having some pretty terrible suffers some serious health consequences as a result. So it's not good at all. And he's someone who up until now had been making a living, I believe, from when he told us, in I think hot tub installation, maintenance, upkeep, and whatnot. But it's it's just he's in a bit of a pinch at the moment. We can't afford to continue to bail out all the people around the world that are reaching out to us either. But Chris, is a special case individual, and yeah, he's got our backing for sure. So there's no doubt that it's someone who warrants more support. It's unfortunate that Dr. Gilbert left his meat body before the new pyramid findings came out. Robert Gilbert, have not heard of him, Zane. ZH was educated by the art. This is, now he's referencing Ozahi Was was educated by that's the Edgar Cayce Foundation or organization. That's amazing. I'm not sure what he means by educate exactly. He's probably been educated by a few people over the years, and it would not surprise me in the least if it turned out Mr. Hawass was a high-ranking Freemason, or what have you. Some have to be a member of some secret society, fraternal order. Take your
the Freemasons. Yes,
well,
Taffy.
yeah. To you, Vinny, and then over to Alan. Go ahead.
You ever see the clip I have on the channel? Ever play Werewolf?
No.
Well, okay, so Werewolf is a Russian game, and in this game, I have the full
instructions. I know. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Right? Yeah, the game.
So everyone gets a card, right?
Yeah.
Two of the cards say Werewolf on them.
Right.
Okay, and then you go through the week, and what happens in the game Werewolf? Every morning, one person disappears, and you have to discover who the werewolves are.
That's right.
If you don't discover who the werewolves are, well, the day goes on, and then another one goes the next day.
Do you know what they call it here in Korea? They call the game Mafia.
Isn't it something?
They call it Mafia. Yeah. Continue though, please. This is great. I played it with the kids here over the years. You have someone like there's a seer. There's two teams. You got the werewolf team, and then you have the citizen team. And then on the citizen team, you have a seer. You have like a woodsman. The Masons are actually in there too. You're right. That's right. There's a couple Mason cards, and they're kind of dodgy, aren't they? They're on the werewolf team.
Well, see, you understand. See, this is that movie, The Usual Suspects. This is the tagline of the movie. The best trick in the world is making you think the devil does exist.
Well, and also revelation of the method, let's not forget.
Right.
For whatever reason, it's the way these occult laws operate, I guess. That when they totally mess you over with experimental kill shots or what have you, they can turn around and say, well, we tried to warn you, but you did not have the eyes to see, nor the ears to hear.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing with Trump and the shots.
Check out,
right?
Folks. I need to go ahead and check out. I got to wake up at 4:30 in order to go online. But I also want to say hi to Real. Thank you for joining tonight. I'd love to have a conversation with you later. And don't forget that you can catch this show over on Home Network on HN5 as well. So I'll check you guys a bit later. And thank you so much for having me tonight.
Bro.
Great. Alan, before you do, bounce on us here. What is all the latest? You can put your hand down if you want to, by the way. But what is all the latest via homenetwork.tv? What are we looking at? What do you have on the horizon for us? What's coming up?
Well, my next big upgrade for the website will be a telephone system, so you can call any member on your phone if you got Wi-Fi. So that's our next step, and then we're going to try to adopt a new chat program.
Oh,
it's a little bit expensive. It might cost $200 or $300 for the upgrade, but it's not unachievable.
What if you don't have Wi-Fi?
Well, then I guess we have to depend on our out-of-body travel and psychic.
Okay. All right,
Just
brother.
a little astral projection. That's all.
You keep up. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, all right, man. Well, thank you so much once again for the support, and we'll definitely be in contact here. We got Dr. Bruce Cornett coming up.
Go into TMI tonight. There's not too many people that know that relationship between the Bells and the Masons and Egypt. It's not well known.
Well,
yeah, the bells are very good. Yeah, the bells ward away spirits. That's what people didn't get. That's why all the bells have been taken away.
Well, what I'm asking is Baal.
Yeah,
Bell. Like
Bell.
that's a little odd. Like,
yes.
I'm always looking at words and just kind of, is there?
When you were talking about that, but I believe they were talking about the converse. Bell would be the converse of Bell.
Well, and Alan, what was the context there with the Masonic end of things? What were we trying to point out exactly?
Well, in the Great Hall in the pyramid, there used to be, and those bells.
Correct.
Is secret. The other thing is they would attach bells to these 30-ton bricks, and it would vibrate the bricks.
Red granite.
Like
this is red granite.
Yes. And well, the red granite, like I said, you go out to the quarry, you quarry
hundreds of miles away, hundreds of miles,
easily. But it would only take one or two people to push it with one finger.
Wait, so you're talking harmonic frequency? That's where we're looking. One of the things, harmonic frequency and vibration. And Tesla, what did he say? He said if you want to know the truth to the life's greater mysteries, essentially, just you look at vibration and frequency.
That's how they build the Coral Castle down here in Florida, Jaffe.
There's something to be said for that. Yes, indeed. Happy sailing, Alan. We look forward to your insight, contributions, everything you bring to the table next time we connect.
Going to TMI though.
What do you say, TMI? Is it?
Yeah, I hope I didn't go into that. I can talk to some pretty powerful experts at a deep level. Oh, I forgot. I have Russell Anderson, which is one of the apprentice for Dr. Searle.
Right.
He actually worked with Dr. Searle. I can get you an interview with him.
Well, send him to Robert Morningstar. Get him to make the rounds here. Angel will probably want to talk to him. Probably even Roger as well here as well too. So let's let him know that he's welcome to connect on all fronts, and we're happy to. That's part of what how we operate down here in Skullport Harbor. That make the rounds and get more information and more shows that you're able to produce, where people are able to hear about these esoteric matters that for the most are largely lost on the wider population. That's really critical stuff. Knowledge is power.
Our science and everything, we have lost tools as simple as a lever or a pulley. And since we don't have those tools, we've built everything on a lever and pulley. We just simply don't have the foundation in science in order to absorb these natural energy causes. And they had it back then. There's no doubt about it. The source ultimately is the sun. Yep. So you're going to tell me, the sun doesn't vibrate, the earth doesn't vibrate. There isn't a natural frequency of 8 hertz in the earth. And if you can sit there and find any way of being separate from that vibration, okay, the difference in that separation is the power you can gain.
It's interesting. 8 hertz in A440, and then there's also which formerly used to be A432. That's a difference of 8 hertz right there. Is that a coincidence or not?
It's a step up.
It's a multiplier. Right. And then on top of it, guess what the resonant frequency of water is? 8 hertz.
Oh, really? Yeah. And look at the sign for infinity, right? It's like an 8, isn't it?
Edward Meyer, or not Edward Meyer, but the guy that built the water car.
Stanley Meyer, yes.
Stanley Meyer. Okay. Well, that's what his secret was. He had a rotating pulse DC generator, You look in the back of his documentaries, you'll see it sitting in the back of them, and that has 8 leads coming off of it. Well, that's what he powered the cylinders in there. They were never in balance. They were always opposing each other, and they were either charging or discharging, because that's the only time that you get hydrogen. That was the big secret.
Huh. How about that?
It was a frequency-driven 8 hertz DC rotating generator.
Well, there you go. So, this is more, this endless onslaught of truth bombs, unfettered truth bombs. Although we encourage everyone, of course, as always, don't take our word for it. Fact check people, and if you find a problem with it, get back to us. Let us know that we've somehow missed the mark here. And
do your own research. Is what Jeffy's saying. And look, everything it works in a spiral also, which is why even the Nazis use a spiral as part of the symbology. It all goes
long
back
time
to
before the Nazis. That symbol had quite a history, thousands of years.
That has a history to it, Jeffy.
It's time to reclaim the swastika. It is an ancient Aryan sun symbol.
The twin slots.
Skywalker.
The twin slot paradox. There's a video online right now solving that.
The which?
Based on a new framework.
The twin. I'm sorry, you were breaking up.
Twin slot paradox is where you have 2 slots in a piece of cardboard, and you aim a flashlight through it. If you try to sit there and measure it for a photon, it acts as a wave. If you try to measure it as a wave, it acts as a photon. So it changes with observation.
You're talking about wavicle, and Schrodinger's cat kind of deal, I guess.
Well, that's like particle entanglement. Isn't that what you're talking about, more or less?
Yes, it solves
Pangagle. Quantum entanglement. How about that? Non-locality, non-duality.
Right,
that's
what we're talking about.
Spooky action at a distance.
Yes. The yin and the yang, gentlemen. The yin yang.
They haven't been able to explain those things.
0 point energy.
Well, it goes back to what you said about Tesla. Everything's a wave. And this accepts that. The difference between what modern science is wanting to say today is everything is in a discharged state. Okay, everything discharges. That's wonderful. Where does the energy come from in order to discharge?
Right, they forget about potential and kinetic at the same time. Right.
Look, even Bob Lazar said that UFOs they flew on a wave, correct? Even Bob Lazar used that. They landed and they went up, and it was because of a wave they were able to travel.
Mean square on a standing wave, and anything that appears in that root mean square area will appear in all other root mean square areas because it is a standing wave. So if you have a particle that is in the gravitational wave that happens at Alpha Centauri at the same instance without any travel time at all, that is the same particle that you're seeing that was just generated at Alpha Centauri. So there is no time space. Actually, light does not travel. It travels on top of a wave that is only existing during the time of the root mean square, the positive and negative. So this is brand new framework, and it explains a lot of these phenomena.
What is a brand new framework? The paradox?
It's called relative difference.
Basically, Jaffe, what it is there's an entanglement so deep from here or anywhere that if you harness the energy strong enough, you can open a kind of like a portal, instant travel.
Right.
Because there's no distance.
It goes
beyond light.
And it draws you in. It's not like you have to. You don't even have to travel there. It's just you're there already.
Automatically. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think we've had the answer to a lot of that the whole time. It's just people haven't looked at the important stuff, like when you look at the Axis Mundi, and then you look at the logos. when you listen to those philosophies, you'll see where that actually comes
look.
from.
Speaking of Access Monday, where are the pirates as well? That's not. Yes, that's right. The Pirates of Giza. That's us tonight. We are the Pirates of Giza. Da-da! Hey, we got to get that branded. Pirates of Giza. Shine ya Galactic. Where are you when we need you? But
I think I'm the only one actually from the Caribbean out of these pirates.
Angel, I hope to talk to you soon. Everyone else, have a good night.
Yeah.
I got to wake up.
Happy sailing. All right.
Hey, great to talk to you, brother.
Better, Alan.
Yeah, Alan recovering from that fire that he had recently, of course. So it's good to see that he and his pets managed to survive. But the Axis Mundi and the pyramids of Giza, Roger Hansen, is it not the case that they are located right the geographical center of the Earth? Is that right? Both as far as horizontal and vertical
well,
lines are concerned?
There's a lot of people who say that, but then you have people who disagree with it too, just like everything else.
Well, and look at Graham Hancock, the way hasn't he mapped out how, and he's got this great. I've downloaded it. I've got to watch it. The Age of Apocalypse 2 is out now, and people can if they're torrent savvy, access without hopefully too much difficulty. But yeah, they're not just the pyramids of Giza and the plateau itself, but all through Latin South America and beyond, pyramids in China and what have you, ley lines.
Yep.
Well, like
there's a lot of ley lines. There's a lot of ley lines, but Jeffrey, don't forget, a lot of the pyramids that came much later on were in tributes also to the earlier civilizations that built the original pyramids. Like a lot of the stuff that we find in South America, for example, were built by people that were kind of like looking at those as like the blueprint, and they were trying to like just reflect on what they did,
like a template. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating, and there are some places, are there not, where they found like pyramids, perhaps even like America, for example, the St. Louis. There's the ancient, is it mounds? I'm not sure if they're pyramids so much as mounds.
They're mounds.
It's the same sort of thing that in Korea they call mu tom, and if you look at that word, mu is empty, but tom, tomb. And also it's interesting, the dolmen that we have in the West, dolmen in Korea, known simply as go-in dol, which that's not a new word, folks. That's ancient. So a go-in, like the Korean word for go is ga, just like it is in Sanskrit, and that's just the start of things. Trust me, or don't. It's up to you. But go in dol, and in is a prefix, usually referring to a person of sorts. They were like burial markers, right? These ancient, I guess, Paleolithic, megalithic burial markers. And so go indol, it also meant giant, but also if you think about go in, like in go in, and going gate in Sanskrit is go in Sanskrit is the same. It's ga as it is in Korean and English. It's just go. So, but gate gate pada sam gate bodhi swaha, with it's out of the Heart Sutra. All form is emptiness, form. Something that's been understood by some via the Eastern traditions for quite some time. So, but yeah, it's go in dol, as there's what we know in the West as dol men. These, it's interesting, men, stone men, literally, giant stone men, markers for for passage to the underworld.
Perhaps.
So, no, that's kind of what they're that's partly what they're all about. So now we got to cut away to commercial break, and I'm not sure where exactly we had left off here. It is a
Often happens.
I'm glad that we've had a decent turnout here and a stimulating conversation to this point. Hopefully more that each of you will have to offer. I'll try to dial it down a little bit. I get a little excited sometimes, but as the host of this show, I do reserve the right to times be a bit of a kind of motor mouth host and commentator. Yeah, that's right. So but right now we've got to queue up the promotional end of things, so just ask everyone to mute out if you would. Robert, once again, just dropping in as we're cutting away to the commercial break. So yeah, we did talk about you.
What a perfect time. What a perfect time.
Well, it'll be we'll be back in 2 minutes though, Robert. So
no problem.
Hang tight. We've been expecting you actually, and as the old saying go, what is it? A wizard is never late. Is it Gandalf out of the Lord of the Rings, right? A wizard is never late. So right on time. But Red Dragon Herbs and Teas, folks. Red Dragon Herbs and Teas. With any order of $25 or more, you will immediately receive a 10% discount. All you simply have to do is let Ryan know one of two things. Either simply Pirate Radio or Pirate Code. That's the way you go about unlocking that 10% discount. Well, meanwhile, over on the CannaSense Cannabis Collective front, 5813 is our referral link number, 5813, and that's something that you'll want to take note of as well as you explore everything that they have to offer via their very extensive and quality catalog of items that are up for grabs. We'll be back here in just a few moments, folks. Don't touch that radio dial or computer mouse.
Medical cannabis is now legal by telemedicine. Get the medicine you need by getting reviewed for a medical cannabis card. Contactless appointments available at CannaSense.com. For as low as $39, you can get reviewed for a medical cannabis card. That's CannaSense.com for a licensed medical cannabis doctor review. CannaSense.com has all the information you need to get connected with a doctor for a $39 medical cannabis appointment. CannaSense.com. CannaSense is common sense.
Catering exclusively to the Des Moines, Iowa area and beyond, Red Dragon Herbs and Teas is a small, family-owned business dedicated to the creation of only the finest quality artisan herbal tea blends. Drawing upon many of the world's most richly established customs and traditions, Red Dragon Herbs' mission is about more than just getting their products out to the market. They also strive to help educate their customers on the wider benefits, history, and folklore of all their plants. Of course, any seasoned pirate knows when they're fixin' to tango with the Kraken, you best be powered up with at least one of the finest select quality premium items freely offered via Red Dragon Herbs and Teas wide inventory. Choosing from any of their caffeine-free, headache relief, or rest and relaxation blends, history has proven their products among the best sources of scurvy prevention and vitamin supplementation. Red Dragon Herbs and Teas, bringing you guaranteed homegrown health relief.
Red Dragon Herbs and Teas, bringing you guaranteed homegrown health relief. Welcome back, everybody. This is the final segment to this week's edition of World Pirate Radio News. Episode number 311. I myself, your host, as always, the Robin Hood's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com is our website, email address, rather. If people would like to reach out, get in contact, have any show suggestions, guest ideas you'd like to bounce off of us. Also, if you have PayPal donations, that's the way to do it. Hit us up via that email address. WPRPN.com is the website. We've recently updated, trying to do our best to catch up on the archived end of things. January, the calendar finally in place. So we'll maybe grab that link while we're live here today and get that out in to the chat end of things. We've got a pretty full house for this portion of things. Of course, Alan via Fort Collins, Colorado. He's one of the main driving forces behind HomeNetwork.tv. Had helped to guide us along, essentially unpacking considerable amount of information and claims regarding the history of the pyramids. Clearly someone who has studied these matters extensively. Definitely not my expertise by any means, although I'm increasingly more curious and fascinated by what ultimately they may stand and serve to represent. So in the meantime, and actually, let's see who else did. Johnny Webb via the UK, who just touched base briefly and then for whatever reason decided to drop out. But in the meantime, we've got Vinny from Brooklyn, along with Roger out of Illinois, USA. Mark Edworthy, another British colleague, someone who is no stranger to the show. Real Angel Espino, Angel the Jackal, out of
House reference,
Florida, USA, and finally Robert Morningstar, who you just missed Alan, Robert, and I'm not sure if you're up to speed or not, but he recently had to deal with a fire, that swept through his residence, unfortunately, and thank God all of his pets were spared, but it did inflict some damage.
Saved the day by fanning it out with his hands.
Jeez.
That's something. Yeah.
Baking soda. Doesn't baking soda, if people have baking soda on hand, like readily available, isn't that something that's really helpful in putting out fires?
Yeah, I guess so. A fire extinguisher helps. I've put out 2 fires in my building with fire extinguishers. You really have to have it. And you don't think it's going to happen, but wow, when that breaks out, I was seeing a friend out at the door. She'd been visiting with her children, and I heard this commotion upstairs and screaming. And then I looked down the hallway. People ran down the stairs, and 2 guys ran down the stairs. One guy had his shirt off, and he was crying and whimpering. And I ran upstairs to see what the problem was. And they had been working on varnishing a floor, and they were smoking. And poof, the whole floor went up, and they got burned. And man, I tell you, I have never run so fast as I did that day. I bolted down a stairwell, ran into my apartment like a madman, grabbed the fire extinguisher, ran back the whole length of my apartment, was about 60 feet, with another 10 to get out, and up the stairs, and I put out that fire. And when I went downstairs, those poor guys were whimpering, and burned back. Their clothes had caught fire. It was harrowing. Everyone should have a fire extinguisher, I'm telling you. That's it. So Alan saved the day by smacking the fire out with his hands, but he got burns in his palms and blisters. And fortunately, he got to the hospital in time. My recommendation, if you get burned, is actually get ice instantly. Put ice on it right away. And then there are other certain creams and things like that you can do. But those first few minutes immediately afterward are so important.
Butter and cooking oil, definitely not.
No.
Very bad.
Just stick your hand in the refrigerator and put your palm right over ice cubes or anything that's frozen.
What about third-degree burns? Isn't that a different story?
Yeah, that's pretty serious, but I would still, in the immediate aftermath of a burn, I would just I've done it. I foolishly burned my hand last year, and instantly I just put the ice on it and made the best of it.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah.
In the background of what you've got there, as far as your green screen wallpaper goes, Robert, I think we've got a picture of both Venus and Mars, if I'm not mistaken,
right.
And hopefully we'll get around to maybe addressing that along with any number of different items when we have Dr. Bruce Cornett join us this week, finally, as our weekly feature guest.
Sorry you couldn't see the images, but all of us could. And
I dropped out and came back in, and then they popped up for me.
That's great. I thought that you'd gone completely. Well, I planned a brainstorm. Folks, I had 3 PhDs on my program yesterday discussing the exosphere of the moon. The moon has up to 100 kilometers up. It's surrounded by what they call an exosphere. And you saw the photographs. I shared them with you last week.
Oh, and then Dr. Cornett, he's sitting there. He's on a rock hunt expedition. He's there in his vehicle, and he took a picture of, what was it, some plasmic?
He captured inside his vehicle the same phenomenon that I captured over the moon.
That was crazy.
And then there's the third picture is the Blue Ghost satellite or lander took a picture of the sunset, and they all show the same stream. So people have been seeing them but didn't know what they were seeing. We have pictures, we have photographs of the solar wind. But the one in Dr. Cornett's car, when I saw them, I said, that has to be a refraction on the glass. He said, no, it was in the air in front of me. I said, what? That was
right. So
between you and the windshield. He said, no, between me and the camera. And so I have a totally new theory about our lives. We are being fed. We are being kept alive by electromagnetic streams of solar energy and plasma that are invisible to our eyes. They're coming right through the atmosphere, and they're energizing us. And I said to Alan, I discussed this with him just a while ago, day before yesterday or yesterday in the morning, and I said, Alan, I've come to the conclusion that we are very much solar batteries. And he said, that's something, you just said something very profound. Where would we be without the sun? We'd be nowhere, man. And nowhere, man.
Right.
Please.
Yeah, well, sure. That's in fact, Microsoft, is it? No, Microsoft, Bill Gates, and all of these, the same kind of the billionaire tech bro community. I think they have been looking quite closely at harnessing our energy, as well as feeding, through who knows, probably very nefarious means where we have not explicitly consented, but they just put it out there anyways. That's how down through history these bastards have operated. It's not, the
Japanese have made incredible advances many years ago when I found out about the piezoelectric effect.
Oh.
That when you apply pressure to crystals, it generates electricity. And I had an idea that we could have shoes with crystals in the shoes and wire leads up to a belt that would be providing your cell phone with a recharge every time you took a step or just stood and shifted weight from one foot to the other. I saw a program last week where the Japanese in a city have put a whole sidewalk with these devices. They're kind of spring-loaded tiles, and when people walk on them, they are triggering this piezoelectric effect, and it's generating a vast amount of electricity for that particular city. And I said, it's about time, it's genius. But what I want to really talk to you guys about, and I first want to say hello, Vinny. Hi, Roger, Mark, and Angel. We have reached a turning point in our history. I haven't had much sleep during the last week since the release of the JFK files, but I have compiled all the files we need to prove that the CIA and the Mossad and the FBI were involved in the assassination of President Kennedy, and that James Files, the man I've been talking to you about for 2 years, is everything he says he is. And I found documents that name him. And the important documents are a CIA memo, it's a Secret Service memo that deals with Chicago Mafia Cubans boasting that they no longer had to worry about money because, quote unquote, the Jews are backing us as soon as we take care of Kennedy, made 3 days before. So this Chicago Mafia Cubans thing ties in with Operation Mongoose, the Bay of Pigs invasion.
Well, that's just wild. That's incredible.
James Files was involved in Operation Mongoose. He was an instructor to the Cuban troops that were going to make the landing. And I have a Secret Service memo, an FBI memo that names James Files and gives his Cuban alias, his Cuban pseudonym, his code name.
Via his time spent as part of Operation 40.
Yeah, and he had a Cuban name. So when they're talking about Chicago Mafia Cubans, James Files was in that group.
Well, and let's not forget, Robert, that Lee Harvey Oswald, was he not the one who tried to blow the whistle on the plot to take Kennedy out in Chicago? I'm not sure about Miami, but in Chicago. And this is via the black, the former Secret Service agent, the first black secret agent that he, didn't he contact him, or was there something to do with?
No, Abraham Bolden overheard conversations at a barbecue.
Right.
Secret Service guys had a barbecue, and he was the odd man out because he was the only black Secret Serviceman in the Secret Service as a result of having met President Kennedy in a washroom. When Kennedy was in Chicago, he was guarding the toilets. And he said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm with the Secret Service." And he said, "Well, I want you to be promoted." So they resented him, but he went to a barbecue, and he overheard Rowley, who was the chief of the Secret Service, and some of the other Secret Servicemen acting disgruntled, and some of them saying, "I'm not going to take a bullet for him." So he reported that, and they came down hard on him. They framed him. He was a patsy. They sent him to jail, to prison for a while, but he never changed his story. But Oswald tried to warn everybody, the entire FBI, that there would be a plot to kill President Kennedy in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. And he had two code names. He was an informant for the Justice Department and informant to the FBI. And he put the two code numbers on the document that I found back in 2018. And he misspelled the name of an FBI agent that he was associated with in New Orleans. His name was Willem de Broys. But Oswald was a notorious bad speller. But he tried to spell it as he heard it.
Bad shooter too, apparently, is how the story goes. not much of a marksman.
Marksman is a little higher than sharpshooter and then expert. So he just made the grade in the Marines. So he wrote De Breuer, Debrower, and the guy's name was De Bruys, right? But spelled Eebruy's.
Sounds like a Dutch surname.
Dutch name, exactly. And difficult to spell, but he tried. And so we have these documents. Right. And I have contacts now who are in contact with Congresswoman Luna, who's the chairwoman of the JFK Assassin Investigations Committee. And we're planning to get these files directly to her. Last night, I tried to mail this important message repeatedly to all my contacts, and all night, Google and Gmail kept blocking me sending this email.
You're kidding.
So, oh my God, 51 emails. Bang, bang.
That is crazy. Oh my.
Yeah, well, we're up against an enemy. AI is our enemy. Stop playing with it. It's not your friend. It's not creative. It doesn't tell the truth.
Yeah, it's totally it's sad that AI is a technological sandbagging apparatus, gatekeeping, and just kind of sandbagging for sure. So, but for and there's thousands of documents that are still, even though Trump, I think I would to give him the benefit of the doubt, say that he has tried to shake loose as much as he could, that what remains, there's still thousands of documents that the deep state refuses to make public. Let alone how many there are that have been destroyed throughout the years.
Jeffrey, they're holding on to them with their death grip. Are you kidding me?
Right.
It's a death grip because they're in danger of getting knocked off, meaning evaporated, rearranged. I think one of the first things that President Trump should do is change the name of the CIA to the United States Intelligence Agency. Because the reason it's named CIA is that the paperclip Nazis refused to work for the Americans, as they say. We don't work for the Americans, we work with the Americans. And if we were to work for the Americans, we would be looked upon as quislings, which is like Benedict Arnold in Europe. And it said, it is understood that if ever the interests of Germany should diverge from the interests of the United States or the Americans, our first loyalty is to Germany. And that was a contract signed by Reinhard Gehlen, the master spy for Adolf Hitler, who turned over his entire network of spies in the Soviet Union and in Europe over to the CIA through the Army. The Army made the deal without telling President Truman, and after they had done the deal, they told President Truman, and then he okayed it, but he didn't know that he was importing at least 5,000 paperclip Nazis.
The Dulles brothers were heavily implicated in that whole business as well, too, were they not?
Absolutely. They were pro-Germany. As a matter of fact, Alan Dulles helped an entire German army evade General Patton by giving Patton false information as to where that army was. He helped General Wolfe and his troops escape from Austria and facilitated their escape. So Dulles and Angleton were both parts of OSS, right? The Office of Strategic Services, which melded into the CIA. When they merged with the paperclip Nazis, they actually took the name that the Nazis had given to their merger of the Rocketry and Science Division with their spy network and their intelligence service. In 1943, they were losing the war. So in order to consolidate, they brought the rocket science together with the intelligence division, and they called it the middle work, MITTELWERK, middle work. Central Works.
Right.
Central Works.
Sure. Hey, and let's not forget, hey, Robert, this is something that'll interest you. In addition to all this, I didn't know until just a couple of years ago, apparently, within the context of all of this paperclip business, that the psychiatric end of things there's a lot more going on there than what most people have any idea, because a lot of the Nazis came over and they became quite hands-on and appointed active within American psychiatric activities, the Psychiatric Association and beyond.
Well, those Nazis and Anna Freud came to the United States and destroyed every other school or field of psychotherapy and psychiatry.
What? Freud, but he was a great scientist, wasn't he?
Freud was
I'm being a little facetious.
Listen, he's the biggest cocaine addict that anybody ever heard of, and he pushed cocaine as a wonderful drug. In the end, he died of nose and throat cancer because it ate him away. A lot of people don't know that, but Anna Freud came here,
right? And
she lobbied in the Congress and in states to ban all other forms. America had tremendous, great psychotherapists and psychologists, and she came in and lobbied and had them all, discredited is the word we use now.
Oh my God! Just the same way the Rockefellers, I guess, kind of paved the way for the American Medical Association. Is that right? And having
eugenics. They were big.
Well, I'll tell you what. Like we got to shift gears a little bit. Angel's here, and I'd like, as much as we could get into continue. I was going to say Freud's nephew before we get back, because it's Pyramid Power. Wednesday here in Korea, almost 2 p.m. in the afternoon. But the Pyramid Power Special is what we're looking at. We'd like to put as much time and energy into this as we could. So, what was just briefly the name of, along with Anna Freud? What was Edward Bernays? Thank you, Edward Bernays. Yeah, the victory torches. Light up those cigarettes, ladies. They're freedom torches. So yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, geez, and that's the way it works, man. That's the way. What are they with the Patriot Act? Yeah, sure. If you're a patriot, you'll back it, right?
Yeah.
Don't ask any questions. Just trust the science. Trust the science.
Well, these are all buzzwords, Jaffe.
That's right.
That's all it is.
That's central to how, with campaign management, orchestration, of course.
Right. This is high-end marketing by the government. That's all it is. Correct. And this has been going on for not just the United States of America's history. This has been going on since biblical times started.
Hearts and minds.
They always use symbology, buzzwords, keywords. They combine things to make you believe. This is how religion got started. This is how every country is ran.
Right. Of course, hearts and minds. So, look, you're kind of a little bit on the skeptical side here, Angel, which is great, because especially with Robert, who's, I'm sure, going to have a thing or two to offer, very knowledgeable in the pyramid realm, well-schooled and very up to speed. So, Robert, what is your take? We've heard from Angel, and we'll get back to him in just after you wrap things up. Or give you a couple minutes to unpack your take on the whole business. But the scanning, ground penetrating radar, satellite imagery. Why was these underground caverns, cavities, whatever they happen to be, why was none of this brought to light or discovered earlier?
They didn't have the technology. But let me tell you something. This is a wonderful, wonderful story and experience. My brother, Rudy, he's also very psychic, and he's also a remote viewer, as we call them now. In 1995, he came to my apartment completely thrilled, excited. Robert, you won't believe what happened to me. I got to tell you. I said, what happened? He said, I had a dream last night, and I was in Egypt, and I was looking at the Great Pyramid, and I was standing there looking at that and the Sphinx, and all of a sudden, a hydrogen bomb blew up, and it blew all the sand away. And when I looked up, I saw that the pyramid was a capstone on a giant obelisk that went down miles and miles into the ground, and there was a city under it. 1995, 30 years ago, exactly. My brother saw this in remote viewing. So, what do they call it? Single aperture radar. That they beam the radar. It's ground penetrating radar, and they beam it from different angles, and it measures vibrations that are underground and creates 3D images. Oh, I'm completely convinced that this is absolutely real, and that the description of their structures is accurate. There was a program on Saturday night on Richard Hoagland's program with a whole bunch of people, but they had the data and several experts. I consider David Sereda an expert on the pyramid, as I consider myself to be. I've been studying the pyramids, believe it or not, since 1955. My first vision of the pyramids was in Viewmaster. You know, put a wheel in there with 3D pictures. So I've been into Egyptology all that time, but in the 1960s.
Robert, don't forget, all this really started blowing up because Joe Rogan spoke about it, and it's because of his podcast that people started spreading this like it's gospel. There's really no data behind that.
The Italian? You mean the Italian discovery?
Correct. Yeah, the recent pyramid discovery, which is. It went from like one person posted it on one site, and then all of a sudden Joe Rogan talked about it. Next, like everybody's like, "This is gospel pyramid," information.
There's nothing wrong with that. People looking into it. There's data. There are images. Listen, what's his name? Edgar Cayce in the 1940s predicted that they would find a chamber under the Sphinx in the late 1990s. The sleeping prophet. And lo and behold, they found it. They found the tomb of Osiris under the Sphinx. But the Egyptians, Hawi Hawass, who's the chief of the archaeological department, they went in there and they extracted all the real stuff. And then they put in fake stuff. And then they had this big opening, they made it kind of like Geraldo Rivera's opening of the
I'm not denying any of that, because we know that some of the hieroglyphics were made up much, much later to the construction. They were like almost made to like just fool people. So,
yeah. Well, what's your take? Are you a skeptic? You don't believe it? And if you don't, why?
Well, I've seen data pre-hand, and I've spoken to a lot of people, including I name drop earlier, Steve Myers, who's written about the pyramids. There are usage for the pyramids which deal with electricity, water, but the pyramids, we have to also remember, like I said earlier, they go back thousands of years before even the last 4,000 or 5,000 years of known civilizations and Sumerians. Sure. So if we're talking about thousands of years before Sumerians, that means, like I've always said, there were civilizations that have come and gone, highly technological. They build these structures, they build these things. They knew where to build them. And at that time, we know through water erosion that there was water and vegetation in this area. We know that from the actual Sphinx to the pyramids, the erosion around them. Now, under the ground, for the last, I think, 5-6 years, they've been doing a lot of research, and where they placed these pyramids were in a perfect position because there's so much water coming up through that area. And what we're seeing are sulfur tubes that are located there. And what happened in Egypt thousands of years ago, as far as my research goes, Robert, is that the cause of why now it's a desert is because literally for who knows how long, all the water that was there was being sucked up through that usage to give water to the entire cities, and also to create the current which gave electricity. And again, I'm talking about ancient technology, which right now would look alien to us, but were done by prehistoric man or pre-Homo sapien.
I agree completely with you. I believe that this.
We're not at odds. We're on the same page. Great minds think alike.
I believe that Egypt was established as a colony of Atlantis, and that the pyramids are tombstones to two things: the loss of Atlantis, but the cataclysm on Mars. In 1998, I discovered charts that were drawn in the 1800s by Sir Flinders Petrie, and he contracted the area. He made the Giza Plateau really big in his drawing, in scale, and then he shrunk the Qatar Depression, which is the lowest part of, it's 450 feet below the Mediterranean. Right. So in ancient times, it must have been an inland sea. But directly across from the pyramids is the holiest mountain in Egypt, and it's called Al-Wajid. And Al-Wajid is the real Mount Olympus of the Greeks. The Greeks took all their gods from Egypt, transposed them to Greece, gave them different names, and they gave another mountain in Greece the name of Mount Olympus, but the real Mount Olympus is this Al-Wajid. So when I discovered this, I looked at it, and it's a map of Mars. It's a terraforming of the planet Mars. The Valles Marineris is that crack in the planet, and it corresponds with the Great African Rift Valley. The three pyramids correspond to the Tarsus Montes, these three volcanoes, gigantic volcanoes that dwarf anything on Earth. And to the west of that is Olympus Mons. Yeah. It's a model of Mars that had the Martian cataclysm. So I believe that the original gods of Egypt, the original 9, the Aeneid, were the Martian remnants. They survived the cataclysm. They came to Earth. They looked around. They said, "Oh, that looks like home. Let's settle there." And also Atlantis. They settled in Atlantis. Atlantis was lost, but they left their imprint. Stonehenge, Atlantis, and that's why Greenland is so important too.
We were just talking. We were just talking about this. Greenland hadn't come up yet, but Edgar Cayce and the whole business. Can you help maybe clarify things, Robert, as far as the geographical center of the world is how does that work as far as the plateau of Giza is concerned, its actual geographical location and the ley lines? Like Graham Hancock, among others, have talked about how there are, if you align various ancient places like Stonehenge and what we have down in Machu Picchu and elsewhere.
The pyramids are pointing true north, which is another.
Okay, but Robert, the location geographically, as far as the world itself is concerned, how does that all play out?
Well, according to everything I read, when people woke up to the significance of the pyramids, is that it splits the world exactly in half. Right. Water and land. That was the first hint that this was more profound than anybody had fathomed yet. But I wanted to say, as you know, I've been to Stonehenge 7 times. Oh. And every time I had a wonderful experience. And in one experience, my soul was lifted out of my body and straight up into space. And I looked down and I saw Stonehenge and the Prime Meridian. And I saw Giza. And I saw a line that went from Giza to Stonehenge. And I measured that line, and it was the corner angle of the Great Pyramid is 52 degrees, basically 51, 57 degrees. Let's call it 52. It turns out that Stonehenge is on the 52nd degree of latitude. It's a bit farther north than New York, which is at 42, so 10 degrees farther north. But this inspiration, this voice told me, look at that. And I drew this triangle, Prime Meridian to Egypt at the 30th degree of latitude, and it got me this triangle. And the voice said, now take that triangle and mirror it, flip it, and see where it lands. So of course it lands at 30 degrees north and 30 degrees west. Yes. And it hit in the Atlantic Ocean off the Canary Islands. So I came back to the United States and plotted all of this down, and I said, I got to find out what's in the water there. So I told my cousin Mark, worked with the U.S. Patent Office, and I told him about it. He was a U.S. Navy navigator, had UFO experiences, were very tight. And he said, listen, I can get any chart you want. My friend works at the USGS, and he told me any chart I want on Earth, I can have it. And he says, give me the coordinates, and I'll go and see him on Monday, and I'll get you the charts. So I gave him 4 coordinates, that one in particular, plus 3 others, 4 of them. So he called me up. I'm going to have lunch with my friend, and I'm going to give him the coordinates, and I'll get you the charts. I'll call you later in the afternoon. So he calls me up, and I said, hey, did you get the charts? He said, no. He said, what do you mean? He said, well, I went to see my friend, and I gave him the coordinates, and then he disappeared for about 20 minutes, and he came back, and he said to me, hey, Mark, who is this guy? And he said, well, he's my cousin Robert, you know, he's a scientist. He's interested in a lot of things. And he said, why do you ask? He said, Mark, there are only 4 places in the Atlantic Ocean that are still classified top secret, and your cousin just asked for 3 of them.
Yeah.
Right? So I had to wait another year, until the Lamont Doherty Laboratory put out a CD-ROM that was called Small Blue Planet. And for the first time, they had the undersea map and the land maps. So I bought it, and I went there to 30 West, 30 North, plumbed the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, and guess what I found? The U.S. Navy had charted this area, and they had found some seamounts. They named one the Plato Seamount. They named the other the Atlantis Seamount, and the most mind-boggling one of all, they named one called the Great Meteor Table Mount. 9,000 feet under the Atlantic, the United States Navy named a table mount the Great Meteor Table Mount. So what does that tell you? Atlantis went down because it got socked by a meteor, destabilized the plate. It sunk under the waves in one day. And the remnants, the survivors of Atlantis, fanned out. They fanned out to the east coast of the United States, where the Iroquois Indians say that they arrived in big canoes from an ancient homeland. They arrived in Mexico, where they established Aztlan. How about Aztlan and Atlantic? How does that resonate with you? Greenland, England, Stonehenge, and the West Sahara. All of these places were colonies of Atlantis, and they maintained the legend. The Egyptians built the pyramids, or the gods built the pyramids as homage, to pay homage. And they always called it the West as the land of the dead. They always called the West the land of the dead, where the sun was setting. And that's where Atlantis would have been relative to Giza. Exactly.
Can I jump in real quick, Robert?
Sure. Go ahead.
Just be real quick, because that's a funny coincidence to my theory on the book of Genesis, going real back here, where, God created, whatever, created Adam and Eve. And whether you want to believe that story or not, the story goes that Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel. Then Cain was kicked out of the Garden of Eden. My contention, remember, when Cain is wandering around, he finds the city of Nod, and there were people, inhabitants there. And my contention has always been that the story of Genesis is talking about the inhabitants, the Elohim, that came from Mars, settled on Earth. They genetically manipulated the Homo erectus, or the pre-human or Homo sapiens that we have here now, to look more like them and be a smarter species. But then when Cain went and started rumbling around, he saw, wait a second, these are not like that primitive. They actually have civilizations. And then the story continues. He married, had children or whatnot with the folks on the city of Nod. Now, if you want to get technical, if Adam and Eve came first and Cain and Abel came second, who were the people in the city of Nod? This answers that question. And this answers the question of the Elohim, where they came from Mars.
Yeah, that's with you 100% on
There's
that.
a long-standing theory.
Listen to this. Why this city underground? Why did they have to build the city underground? Why? Because when they came from Mars, which is
God of war.
Sun, much colder. They couldn't take the heat. They had to become chthonic, underground gods. They couldn't survive outside. They had to build a habitat that would protect them from the sun and the heat.
So are these a human? This is like a human subspecies, or what exactly are we looking at?
Well, we look like them, meaning we're more intelligent. We have a lot of the similar features which we had already, but what they really did was when they messed with our DNA, or pre-Homo sapien, was they made it so we're technologically smarter but weaker, so we don't fight back and rebel. So our bones are not as dense or as strong as they used to be. We're not as tall as we used to be. In fact, they went through a process where men went through a shrinkage for a long time, and now we're starting to get taller again.
Always smaller. And I think the Anunnaki and the Elohim and the Aeneid, the 9 gods of Egypt, they're all the same group, except the Anunnaki, some of them were more aligned with Enlil. And Enki seems to be the guy that adopted the human race and boosted us. There's a marvelous scroll, cylinder seal, that was deciphered a few years ago. It's called the Instructions of Enki. And Enki gathers 14 goddesses, right? And then they make a plan to create this new creature, Adamu. And they take they take clay and they take their DNA and spit and sperm and cells, and they create this bundle. They describe it as a bundle, and then they split the bundle into 14 pieces, and then they planted the 14 pieces in the 14 goddesses, and 9 months later, these goddesses gave birth to Adamu. But it's 14 atoms, and that explains, it's much easier to propagate if you have 14 beings.
Some of us even called them the Adamski.
Adamski, but the Adamu. And Adamu means they were red. People of people of the red clay.
The first man too, as well. Yes, the first man.
Adamu, same one. But it's the first men and the first women, and they were planted somewhere to propagate. But it's my belief that this whole idea of the fall was that Enki sent an infiltrator who seduced Eve, and that infiltrator was a reptilian, a biped upright reptilian. And here's where we have the difference in character between Cain and Abel. The Torah, or the Talmud, suggests that Eve had sex on the same day with Adam and with a demon. You would call him a demon today.
A reptilian? Would it be like a reptilian demon?
A reptilian, Asmodeus. And that.
Now, have you heard of the Lacerda files, Robert? Because this kind of touches on those,
people tell me that this resonates with that. I haven't heard the Lacerda, but I'm familiar with the suggestion. But the point is, Eve had sex with 2 beings on the same day, conceived 2 children, and Adam, and they were Cain and Abel. And Cain was the offspring of this other, I believe it was, what's the one that married Lilith? Samael, that was the name of that demon.
And Lilith being Adam's first wife before Eve, apparently. So many people have never heard about. Most even Lilith, Bible believers, so-called Christians, they don't even know about Lilith.
Yeah, well, the rabbis know. Lilith rebelled against Adam, refused to submit, obey, and so she split and she became the consort of Samael. And it said that she took residence in a cave in the near the Red Sea, and that she would copulate with the demons and produce 100 demons a day, and that she is the mother of abortion. She hates the offspring of Adam.
Right.
She wished to kill babies So Jews and Hebrews before them had amulets that they would create and put on the baby to protect them from Lilith and Lilim, the demons that she would send out to kill the newborns. And we're just scratching at the surface.
Yeah.
My theory, the fall of man, is that let me call him God. God engineered Adam and Eve to be perfect, and that they were going to be immortal, and that had higher consciousness. But his ulterior motive was to enslave them, to make them work the caves to get the gold. That's my theory.
Mm-hmm.
But the sexual intercourse that Eve had with Samael, the reptilian, she contracted a virus, which I call the serpent virus or the snake flu. And that's what damaged humans' DNA. It damaged the mitochondria, the ends of the DNA, so that as time went by, it became more and more degenerated. And though they were, Methuselah said to have lived 1,000 years, but as the DNA was copied, it lost exactness. And so we lost that longevity. But we're rebuilding our DNA. In modern times, we have been repairing our DNA, and I believe that that was the purpose of Jesus Christ coming to earth. In metaphysics and in religion, there's a term called the reparation of Christ, that Christ came here to redeem mankind, but reparation means repair. He came to repair the human being. He came to repair the human genome, and he was the first perfect one because Jesus and John the Baptist had been repaired at Qumran, where the angels, the good angels, were meeting with Essene women, having sexual intercourse with them in this tabernacle, this holy precinct or holy site, where only perfect people, said only those who walked in perfection could enter this precinct. This is in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And that's where the angels came and went from Qumran on chariots of glory. Chariots of glory is their name for the spirit or the UFOs that they were using to travel. So Ezekiel said, I was taken up in the spirit, and the spirit took me up into the mountains. And then the spirit took me back into the plains. He's talking about UFO craft that Yahweh and Elohim were using to convince primitive man that they were gods. But they are only created beings themselves, but of such a higher level that we were low man on the totem pole. And one group raised us, elevated us, and the other group is trying to annihilate us. And it's been a fun.
How about that? You know, and I think that not only on a physical material level, but also from the spiritual standpoint as well, the struggle that so many of us endure throughout the course of our lives from one day to the next. But ultimately, we have free will, don't we? So it's the choice is always ours. What are we going to do? Work with the situation. Skillful means practical wisdom would be my way of looking at it. But let me just quickly bounce off his business of Lilith. What might have Sarah Building a Mystery McLaughlin been thinking when she worked, gave her blessing launching the Lilith Festival? Is that what it was called? And I think...
Yeah, I remember it vaguely.
Yeah, but back in the mid-90s.
Yeah, well...
Yeah, look into it. Yeah. It very much, I think, reflects and seems to embody the spirit of what you alluded to as far as abortion.
Well, remember what their gods demanded. Baal and Moloch demanded human sacrifice, and specifically babies, children,
right,
in a Holocaust. So this is the sect that hijacked Judaism. This is another big part of the story, that Judaism and the Torah were designed to help man perfect himself. But this other perversion of it, Baal and Moloch. See, when Solomon died, he left the kingdom to his son Rehoboam. But a large 11 of the tribes refused to go along with that, and they split. And it split into Judea and Israel. The northern part of the kingdom became Israel with the 11 tribes. And those 11 tribes intermarried with the Canaanites and the Philistines and the pagans, and they absorbed their teachings and their religions, their precepts, human sacrifice, baby sacrifice, cannibalism, and that was the Edomites. The Edomites are condemned as the Amalekites, blood drinkers.
Are we talking the Amalek then, or is that different than the How do you pronounce it?
Amalekites. Amalek was the leader. Amalekites were the followers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they turn out to be the grandchildren of Esau. Remember, Esau was the guy who was gypped by Jacob of his birthright. He tricked the father. So there's this hostility, this enmity between the children of Esau and the children of Jacob, who became Israel.
But
Here's
it's
another thing I'd like to tell you about. Let me just tell you.
Sure.
This is very important because Zionist Christians are practicing a heresy.
Oxymoron.
They've been conned for 100 years to believe that Yahweh was the God of Jesus, and he was not.
Schofield Bible.
Of years,
Right?
Robert.
Exactly.
Schofield Bible.
Yeah. But no, but the Schofield Bible or commentary on the Bible is what bamboozled Christians into believing this heresy. And so we have to make a distinction and expose it. So the upshot is that Zionists worship Baal and Moloch. And if you read the Torah, they refer to God as Baal, not Elohim. So these things have to come out into the open, and this explains the behavior of Benjamin Netanyahu and the Zionists, who are a death cult, basically.
Well, and Netanyahu, just as a reminder to people who didn't pick up on it the first time around, that he directly referenced the from the Dead Sea Scrolls, what's known as the War Scroll, I believe, and the Amalek as being the other, essentially. So that's where I'm getting a little confused now.
Well, the War Scroll, basically, the War Scroll is in the Book of Revelations because St. John and Jesus and St. John the Baptist, St. John the Divine Jesus and St. John the Baptist, they were all products of the Essene tradition. And when I read the Dead Sea Scrolls and read the War Scroll, I said, holy mackerel, this is word for word what we have in the Book of Revelation, which is about the war in heaven and about the fallen angels fell because Michael and the archangels beat them up in the space battle and knocked them down to earth. And so they settled here on earth, and they've been conducting their operations for a very, very long time. And their goal is to destroy the seed of Adam. If you read Edgar Cayce, he talked about it in the same battle. He talked about it as the battle between the sons of light and the sons of Belial.
Okay.
And Belial is another name for the devil.
And so that's straight out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Were those the I get often confused between the Qumran and then the Essenes and then the Gnostic Gospels. So which one talks of the sons of light and darkness? The Dead Sea Scrolls, yes.
Nag Hammadi library, similar. Nag Hammadi library was rescued in 1942 or 43.
Yeah.
Partly. Well, thank God that was they got. I cherish them very much.
Right.
And so that was the Gnostic teachings. And it appears that the Essenes were Gnostics. I went to the Dead Sea Scroll exhibit here in New York when it came here, and I saw a tremendous number of artifacts, and there were crosses. There were crosses all over the place, but there were no Stars of David.
Yeah.
The Stars of David were imposed on the Jewish people by the Rothschilds in the 1700s.
Yeah.
And that's
also remember the good and the evil, Robert. There's also the Egyptian lore of Horus and Set and that battle between light and evil, and that's also a metaphor for the modern Christ and a lot of messiahs over the years.
Yeah,
the
Horus is the Messiah.
Jesus. Yeah.
Horus was the Messiah of the Egyptians. He saved them from Set and Typhon. If you read deeply into the story, Set and Typhon, after they killed Osiris, they just were totally tyrannical, and they were eating human beings. So humans didn't have long to last because they were lunch for Seth and Typhon. And Typhon is depicted as a crocodile who stands on two legs, a reptilian. So Horus was raised in secret until he came of age, and then he did battle with Seth. He defeated him, but in the battle, he lost his eye. And that's what the Umchat is. That signifies the eye of Horus, either the remaining eye or the eye that he sacrificed.
That's correct. Yeah.
So he is the Christ, the precursor of Christ.
Well, and so Bob Dylan, he has that. That's part of his. That's part of his shtick and branding. He's got that emblazoned behind him. It's the Eye of Horus. Every show that you see him now, the last number of years, yeah. So is that a good thing or something that we should say? We should ask ourselves, like, geez, Bob, you've gone pretty dark. Which is,
I always take Horus as a positive.
Okay.
Being,
and let's not forget that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
That's true. And then we have also the all-seeing eye. That's that symbol. And you know what? I sent you guys a fabulous near-death experience by a Navy pilot.
Right.
Who died.
Yeah, I saw that. I watched that.
And I was thrilled, man, because he experienced the same thing I experienced in 1975. In that moment of crisis, he experienced the all-seeing eye. He said, I could see in 360 degrees in all directions. I saw the whole universe.
That's common testimony. That's right.
Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. Yeah. I was thrilled by that.
That's total Buddhism too, believe it or not, that everything is the way it's supposed to be. It's like just accept it. You work with the situation, of course, but a Taoist as well too, as you well know, probably, Robert. So go ahead, Rangel. We gotta wind things down. This is intriguing conversation. There's a few little just minor points I was thinking of maybe.
I was gonna ask your question, Jeff, because when you brought me up earlier, you said that me and Robert might have been at odds, but so far, I mean, I completely agree with
yeah, but I think he's no. Well, you're kind of like a limit. It's just you're only willing to go so far. You're acknowledging it. It sounds like acknowledging the fact there's something down there. There are these like subterranean caverns and perhaps like ancient giant aquifers is what it sounds like. And now how they got there is anyone's guess, really. Maybe they disappeared when the Nile dried up. I have no idea.
The desert was created by the Romans. See, the Carthaginians were worshippers of Moloch and Baal. And when the Romans got there, they said, pardon the expression, holy shit, these guys are fucking evil. Let's get rid. Look, they're killing babies, eating babies, and hundreds of them in the sacrifice.
I had no idea. You're kidding. So I had no idea.
No. Why do you think so many kids go missing, Jeffy?
No. I got that part. I get that, but the Carthaginians,
it's still happening now.
Hannibal the cannibal. I guess
Hannibal the cannibal. Right?
My God.
There's a basis in fact in that.
But they wiped out the Carthaginians. You're aware of that.
But not only that, the Romans salted Libya, what we call Libya, it was Carthage, they salted it so that nothing would ever grow there. And as a result, the desertification of northern Africa spread. But at one time,
raise your hand, Mark. Raise your hand.
Sorry, sorry.
It's going to the universal note, so
improving by historians to be a falsity. The entire Sultan then.
Excuse me.
You're breaking up.
All that by historians to be a falsity.
What's he saying?
Give him a second, Robert. It don't make sense. Go ahead, Mark.
Pretty much everything.
You're garbled, Mark. You're totally garbled.
Yeah.
I think he's saying he's trying to argue that what you're alleging regarding the salting of Carthage has been debunked. A word I'm not big on debunking because it's something it's not debunking is a kind of a people should not use that term. Be careful. But Mark, is that what you're saying? That what Robert?
Yeah.
It's been debunked.
Okay,
hold it, Mark. Then Mark, explain how so. Let's use the term disproven. Disproven. Okay, let's use that instead. Disproven. How?
I can answer that actually if you want me to. The actual deities that were worshipped in Carthage was Tanit, and Baal.
Salting of the desert.
And Baal, yes, okay. That's the same.
Baal Haman.
Yep.
Moloch never existed. That's just a make-believe deity that was created by Christians. Now, when it comes to Topets is what they were sacrificing supposed babies on, and they don't know for sure if it was killing babies or if they were stillborns. The only thing that they really had proof that any of that kind of rituals were taking place was in Carthage, and they really don't know for sure if it was actually murdering babies.
Right outside of Jerusalem. I was watching something just the other day. They were talking about it. Right outside of Jerusalem.
They don't even know where the location of freaking that ballot.
Origins of Satanism. Right outside of Jerusalem.
Hell. It's actually supposed to be hell. It's actually
important thing I want to tell about desertification.
Okay.
It is proven by geology and archaeology that at one time all of North Africa was wet, and there was a way of navigating by boat from Egypt all the way to the Western Sahara through a series of inland lakes and seas, which connected everything. And after the Romans salted the earth in Carthage, the desert began to spread. That water evaporated, but the remnants of the lake beds has been proven by geologists and archaeologists. So that's where we stand.
I was taught that it was the shifting of the frickin' plates that caused the huge mountains in Europe in between France and
the Alps.
The Alps, yeah. And it also opened up the water.
The Mediterranean Sea.
That would be the cracking of the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean was once an inland sea, sealed. But something happened that cracked, a huge earthquake cracked the Pillars of Hercules. Spain separated from Africa, and the onrush of the pressure of the Atlantic Ocean rushing in and filling it up, it gouged the area immediately to the east of the Pillars of Hercules, Gibraltar. That area is 600 feet deeper than the eastern Mediterranean, and this was discovered by the Glomar Explorer, which was the ship that was built by Howard Hughes for CIA operations, including recovering the submarine. But when they did the plumbing of the depths and charting of the Mediterranean, they found that that area immediately to the south and east of Spain, to the east of the Gibraltar, was 600 feet deeper. And their explanation is that the onrush of the waters of the Atlantic, the pressure was so great, it just cascaded and dug this huge area that's 600 feet deeper than the rest of it.
That's incredible. So, let's give a quick shout out here. We got Martin Taylor via the UK, along with David Wilkes. Sorry to have taken so long to get around to acknowledging your presence. Martin, always a pleasure to have you on board. Cairo, he says, translates as Mars. Tuatha Danann tribe. It sounds like the Dan. They're Dan.
Yeah, the Dan tribe. I agree with that one 100%. I tracked it. I tracked it.
Classification supposed to be based on threats to maintaining national security. How would the suppression of ancient history threaten national security? Well, paradigm shift, I guess. And you know, the religions, just think how how earth-shaking they would, you know, certain revelations would be to ancient religions. People that cling so desperately to these silly beliefs that are, I mean, to think, I don't understand why people are so hung up on, and, you know, like, just relax, and you can stick to your principles, but I mean, what did Christ say? Be of good cheer, and that their hearts are so hard. That was one thing, a common, you know, theme that repeated itself, I believe. He would always say, those, like the Pharisees, you know, maybe even the Sadducees, I don't know, that their hearts are so hard. Look at those people. You know, if you're going to follow me and my yoga, you know, take upon my yoke, which is really, I think, easy, is what he said. Just be of good cheer. That's a really great start. Lighten up,
Jeffy. You got to remember, a lot of the religious outlets are going to have issues, are the main institutions themselves.
Yes.
We, the people, are, I think, a little bit more ready for this kind of knowledge.
They have vested interest. The clerical establishment are really freaked out.
It's not to say they don't know already. The fact that they don't talk about it does not mean they don't know
of course.
what really happened.
They're they're professional gatekeepers that are maintaining this occulted type, you know, secrecy. So look, Homo erectus, there's a joke for Jeffy. Exactly. Well, yeah, I was thinking, well, it was Angela brought it up, so we'll just leave it there.
Homo sapien, Homo erectus, Jeffy.
Okay. So,
well, I wanted to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Cain and Abel, and the sign of Cain. He's the father of the Canaanites.
Correct.
And a lot of people don't make that connection. And God said that He put a mark on Cain so that no man should harm him, because He wanted that ilk to propagate, to create a certain dynamic tension, I think, in our race between anti-human impulses and pro-human impulses. And my friend Keith Morgan, he's the engineer for Richard Hoagland's show, he's done tremendous work on the Anunnaki, and he came to the conclusion that the sign of Cain was that God changed him so he would not grow facial hair. And that's what everyone would be able to recognize. The children of Cain don't grow facial hair, and he associates that with the Oriental race. It's a very interesting theory. The other thing is...
well, how do you explain the Fu Manchu?
Well, those are really exceptional.
facially, the hair challenged. So
yeah,
I mean, remember, my great grandfather was from China, so I am very hairy.
Keep in mind, it's something that we brought up just the other day. If you look at me, like, I just brought this up with my students the other day, and it's an issue here where you find, like, these the Fu Manchu grandpas, they can pull it off if they're so inclined. Let me see if I can get the camera on here, and just people have yet to actually. Angel, you've got me beat on this front. That's some pretty cool stuff. But the Koreans, they can grow a little, like a little stash, and what the hell, a beard? What do you call these things? I've been so out of goatee. Yeah, I've been so bloody, like, when you live in a foreign country like this, that English is your second language. I mean, just connecting with you guys on a weekly basis here is such a relief and blessing, just count, innumerable ways you would not believe. So, but that the Korean men here, most clean shaven, very metrosexual, the promotion of this whole metrosexual agenda, which is, I mean, it doesn't get more gay than that, frankly. But
it's pretty odd considering the location. It is.
It's not bad. You can be. It's not bad being clean shaven and well kempt, obviously. But they see. So because I had some lunch with mostly women, female adult students the other day. A couple of guys were there, including myself. But yeah, just clean shaven in this area and down here typically, and you sculpt and you craft what you have for facial hair. And they did make the comment that yes, that there were times where women did find a little bit of this, somewhat appealing. So definitely,
Listen,
well done, Mark. Well done, Mark, as well too.
When I went to Peking, went to the Peking Zoo. I walked in, there was this giant billboard, and it had a picture of a gorilla, a picture of an African, a picture of a Caucasian, and a picture of the Chinese. And it was pointing out similarities between the African and the gorilla, between the Caucasian and the Chinese. And what they were pointing out was that Caucasians are hairy and Chinese don't have hair, they don't have facial hair, and that they're superior because of that, and that the evolution of mankind came from the monkey, gorillas, to Africans, to white people, to Chinese people.
They are very sensitive here. When I any monkey reference, the kids, any monkey reference, very sensitive, and that goes right back to like, oh, you little cute little monkey. Like it's just like and I'm King Kong, and like I'm a bigger monkey than you. And they don't get it. They don't understand it. And but the kids, they love the arm hair. They're ooh, because they don't see it. I don't see it on their parents, the male figures in their life.
I've got an important message. An important message from Janon.
Yes.
Friend. She's recovered from the paralysis, but she believes that the seed of Satan has got into us at that thing at the time of the fall. Remember, the reptilian had sex with Eve, and the snake flu got into us, and that it's been dormant, and now it's been awakened in us. And Robert Stanley, who is the editor of Unicus magazine, unicus.com, he's a brilliant scholar. And he found an account in the Talmud which explains this. That he sent it to me. The Talmud says that Eve bore another child for Samael, the devil. And that when this kid was born, he was a huge headache. He never starts squawking, is driving Adam mad, and that Adam and Eve killed him and ate him. And that when Samael came around and said, hey, Eve, where's my son? They said, well, we don't know. We don't know where he went. And that the evil spirit of Samael's son that they had consumed called out from within them and said, Father, I am here. They killed me and they ate me, but now I'm inside them and I will be inside them forever. That's in the Talmud. Really? That explains, these tremendous amount of mythology. I always say legends and myths always have a basis in truth. When Joseph Campbell wrote a book called Myths to Live By, one of the most memorable parts of the story was a third grade teacher asked her class, does anybody here know what a myth is? A little boy raised his hand and he said, Johnny, you know what a myth is? He said, yes. A myth is something that's true on the inside, but not on the outside. And I think that's the essence. If you read The Fingerprints of the Gods, Graham Hancock explains how myths encode a truth and transfer it across the ages by making it as simple as possible that at the core of that myth is the essential truth that is to be preserved by the myth. So the outside of the myth may change somewhat and go from one legend to the other, but the core of the truth that myth is transmitting is maintained in its purity.
Joseph Campbell said a lot, he wrote a lot, obviously lectured, toured, and gained quite a reputation in respect to this whole business of mythology.
I met him once.
Really?
He had a theater. He and his wife, Jean Erdman, had a theater here in New York called the Theater of the Open Eye. And my Hindu dancing teacher and his company would perform there. So I went there because Jean Erdman loved my teacher, Bhaskar. He was one of the greatest Hindu dancer ever to come to America. And it was there, and I met Joseph Campbell and Jean Erdman back in the 1979, 80.
Yeah, how cool is that? That's amazing. And so it was a pleasant experience, I would imagine.
Yes, absolutely.
That's great.
That's what I call in my life in New York, brushes with greatness.
Oh, have you? Now you're thinking of writing this, I guess, is what you've talked about.
Yeah, I have been writing it.
Well,
I've been writing it. I'm writing about meeting Muhammad Ali.
Really?
In my lobby, holding the door for him.
No kidding.
Almost getting killed. My cousin almost got us killed. My cousin was 13 years old and he idolized Muhammad Ali. And we're coming into the building and, a glass door. So I'm opening the door and I see Muhammad Ali walk out of the elevator, cradling a baby in his arms like this. And he's all wrapped around it. And he comes out with these two black Muslim bodyguards that were even taller than Muhammad Ali. And he was 6'3" himself. Wow. So I'm holding the door and I said to my cousin, "Hey, Henry, look, it's Muhammad Ali." And he looks, where? Right there. And so he's standing next to me. I'm holding the door. Ali comes up. He's holding the baby. Lila, the daughter that became a boxer?
Okay, sure, yeah.
She's an infant. So he's all wrapped around and I hold the door and I look at him. He looks at me and he says, "Thank you." And I said, "How you doing, champ?" And at that moment, my cousin touches him. He goes, "Oh, how you doing, champ?" And he touches his shoulder.
Uh-oh.
And the two black Muslim bodyguards go, "Wah!" And they look at Ali and like, "Should we kill him now or should we wait till later?" And look, and I look at Muhammad Ali and I go, my telepathy. I said, "Come on, champ. He's only a kid. And I'm not going to let your bodyguards kill my cousin, all right?" So Muhammad looked at me, and then he looked at the bodyguards. He said, "It's okay." And then they walked out, and I closed the door. And I said to my cousin, "Henry, you almost got us killed."
Yeah.
He goes, I'm sorry. I love him. I just had to touch him. Say, well,
that's slightly better than my story with Lou Ferrigno, where he almost kicked my butt, Robert.
Oh, really? The Hulk?
Yeah. Back in 2011, I almost got murdered by the Hulk.
How did that all play out? Let's our listeners, I'm sure, would be interested.
I'm still alive, thankfully. It was at a convention.
Yeah.
In Orlando, MegaCon, and I went with a group from SoFlo Radio to do the shows on streaming, and we recorded video and whatnot. And there's celebrities there, as you know, and we approached Lou Ferrigno to see who wanted to interview on the show, and he was very rude about it. He didn't want to do it. He said we had to address his people 6 weeks in advance, and he wasn't there for that, and he was just very arrogant, right? Huh. Funny enough, the first person we got to interview was Doug Jones, who's a huge actor who was in Star Trek Discovery, major player in Hollywood. It's super nice guy, completely opposite. Mm-hmm. But the last day of the convention, me and a couple of the guys from the show went up to Lou Ferrigno's table, and it was empty. There's no fans or anything.
It's the second time.
Right. This is like the last day of the convention. This is the second time we approached him. And I was filming, different people talking in interviews and stuff. And in one table is Lou Ferrigno, empty. And then across the room is John Schneider, who was on Smallville, and Dukes of Hazzard and whatnot. He's near the corner. Captain Kirk himself was there. William Shatner was there. I got to briefly see him. And it was a really fun event, but I go to Lou Ferrigno, and I'm like, "Mr. Ferrigno, listen, I know that you turned down our show earlier to be on radio, and that was going to be about an hour long, but can you give us, at least a couple of minutes on video, as I'm a huge fan."
Empty table.
And, well, he got up, and I swear, I thought it was going to turn green. He went at me like, I told you, I do not do interviews at least 6 weeks in advance. You got to notify my people. Ah. And my buddy was like, dude, let's get out of here before you get, literally like beat up by the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
So he's pulling me up like off, like pull me away. And I'm like, Mr. Ferguson, I'm sorry, maybe I didn't hear you correctly, the first time, but I didn't know that you were that upset. Now,
You should have told him you were deaf. You were hearing impaired. You should have told him.
Well, this is where I'm going, Jeffy. Thank you. I made that joke because he is hearing impaired.
Yeah, I know.
And when he talks like that, that's really what he talks like.
Yeah.
But he is huge in person, right?
I am meeting impaired, just like you. A little, some sign language in the mix.
Now, this is a really funny ending. When I walked away slowly, I thought he was gonna rip the table and
he really was that pissed off. You're not exaggerating.
He was very angry. He was swearing and cursing, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm about to get killed.
I hope you had your camera running.
No, check this out. In the corner, I see John Schneider losing.
Yeah.
So I go up to John and I'm like, did you see that? And he goes, man, I thought he was going to go crazy in you. And I'm Parkett, and there's no Superman to save you. You would have killed you. And I'm like, all I asked was for a couple words. And I got no battery. I got 1 bar left. I can't even get that. I was trying to get him, maybe you're a superstar. And Josh Snyder was like, well, I'm sorry, kid. And I was like, can I at least get a bumper for my show? And he goes, yeah, sure. He gave me a bumper for my show. It's still on YouTube. Super nice guy, Josh Snyder. I mean,
just
gentlemen,
the good old boys.
I talked to him for 20 minutes when the camera died off record. Gentlemen.
Yeah. You hear nothing but good things about John Schneider. So look, we got to wrap things up here. Robert, thank you so much once again, along with everybody else. Robert, your book. I'm really quite intrigued because you've got quite a laundry list of folks that I know you've mentioned time that we've spent together just connecting with the shows that we've done over the past couple of years. So yeah, that's definitely something worth
I have another
pursuing.
announcement about another book.
Okay.
I'm editing and possibly translating from the French Christian Laterrere's book.
Oh yeah,
Chris is writing a book.
And the title it's like Montauk Camp Hero Survivor.
Montauk Boys, and Terror at Montauk.
Right.
It's got a couple possible titles, but Terror at Montauk, and I just translated 1 chapter, which was amazing, of how they treated him and threw him in the cage the first time he was there. He describes the labyrinth that I would call it, a labyrinth, underground, sloping path to 2 doors. When you open the door, there were cages there. They threw him in there. The cages were wet. They had no bed. There was blood and water all over the floor. It's really horrific what the CIA and the Canadian government took the contract from the CIA at McGill University. So that's going to be something to read.
I wonder if there's any illustrations that will he provide, or has he provided? You would need an illustrator, obviously, to tackle something like that. But I don't think there are any pictures to speak of so far. Why is it Robert froze up again? He does it sometimes.
I think he froze, yeah.
Now he might be able to hear us. We can't hear you though, Robert. So, but that's fine. I think people, more or less, listeners get the gist of what he was driving at. We've got to call it a night here though. We're at the top of the hour. Vinny from Brooklyn, Roger Hansen, Mark Edworthy, and Angel Espino, all scattered across various parts of the planet. We call Earth here, resonating, I guess, at a frequency of, is it 8 hertz?
0 hertz.
Well, there's something 8. I think it was Alan was mentioning, but and let's not forget that. So the story goes, every planet, along with God only knows what else, but every planet has, probably people too, has its own distinct, unique vibration and frequency.
Correct.
like, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, Mercury, Pluto. Well, why was it? Pluto was, the decision was made that we'll take that off the planet. We'll take that off the planet list.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing about Pluto, Jeffy. Before we go off air, they found Pluto to actually be very much warmer than they anticipated when they did the flyover. Which they were like, how is this even possible? It's so far out there. How could there be any sort of warmth on this planet? Which it should be like a brick of ice, and it wasn't.
Right.
Something's heating
Pluto
there's
so much that we're being misled. Where ultimately it's going to future generations, maybe even within our time frame here, at some point, if we're able to keep everything on track more or less. And by the way, the Rendlesham Forest incident, so the story goes, because of the binary code that was revealed, allegedly, that everything lines up, speaking of ley lines and so forth, with a whole number of various critical ancient sacred sites that we've touched on here throughout the course of this week's news event. So we didn't get to too many. And saying that peace should prevail. That hopefully, according to what the binary code that I'm not sure how it was worded exactly, but the spirit of the message seemed to be that man would survive, for better or for worse, hopefully for better, but you work with what you've got, I guess, right? Try to make not only yourself, but ultimately the world a better place. So hopefully people can do that as well in support of what we offered here this go round, once again, by connecting with us through email, pirate1radio@protonmail.com, or the website, of course, WPRPN.com. You can sign up for free. All you need is the username, email, and passwords. It's pretty straightforward. We'll be back again this coming Friday night is what we're looking at. Same time as we typically like to do these things, with Dr. Bruce Cornett. And we're going to be getting more into the pyramids of Giza, but also his experience with the number of supernatural, for lack of a better word, items, experiences, stories that he's going to bring to the table, the geological studies that he's embarked upon throughout the years as well, studies and discoveries. The man is, very, very highly accomplished academic and, respected scholar who came to us courtesy of Robert Morningstar. So potentially even look forward to having Robert himself on as the co-host up in the crow's nest. We're just going to have to see if he's available or not. But wow, thank you to everyone who did, of course, contribute to the comment end of things, the peanut gallery, as it were. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of the week, of course. Hit us up once again through email with any guest suggestions, show ideas, PayPal support. Check out the merchandise we have available online, coffee mugs, t-shirts, and the like. On behalf of, and don't forget to comment, like, share, hit notification buttons, all that kind of good stuff. So on behalf of Captain Long John Sinclair and all the rest of the crew here down in Skullport Harbor, until we meet again via these high, often all too intrepid digital seas, I'm your host, as always, the Robin Hood's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder, reminding you, as always, ear to the ground and eyes to the sky. Tally ho.